They whipped me for entertainment. I spent my first day in this wasteland as a slave on somebody else's mobile city, worked through the night, fed on scraps, beaten whenever the Lord was bored. 8 days later, I led the uprising that took that city, renamed it Tomorrow, and woke an intelligence system that names every ore vein and every enemy before it arrives. 2 months on, I was trading cannon fire with 3 predatory cities. The slave they whipped owns the wheels now. Punch the like button and ring the subscribe bell so you stay in the loop. Every click moves the needle. The path that led here is the part worth telling. Let me start from the first hour. Wind and rain come down hard over the wasteland at first light, and out across that boundless dead ground, a thing the size of a small mountain moves through the weather. Look closer, and it is a town, and the town is built with a heavy steampunk hand. Underneath it run rows of tires and giant tracks, and bolted around its skirts are mechanical arms and cranes and watchtowers and cannons and heavy machine guns and searchlights. Buildings, a water tower, warehouses, a small processing plant, fields, all of it layered from top to bottom and laid out in neat tiers. I am up on the watchtower with a freshly written inventory list in my fist, and my face is not good. This is my first week since transmigrating. It is a wasteland world. Corpse tides, mechanical life, mutated creatures, monster civilization, and every one of those is worse in person than it sounded in the abstract. Survivors here cling to the miracle that is the mobile city, and they strengthen and build those cities step by collecting resources, recruiting talent, and hunting other mobile cities. This one was called the Mole, an unranked level 1 mobile city. On my first day in this world, I had the good fortune to arrive as a slave on it. Work day and night, filthy quarters, a pitiful ration of food and fresh water, and a beating from the Lord or one of his thugs. Whenever the mood took them, I ate all of it without a flicker on my face, and started planning underneath. Recruiting other slaves, putting weapons aside, quietly turning the confidants the Lord had soured on, building a plan. Last night we took the opening and rose. One night of bloody work cost me better than half my side, and at the end of it the old Lord and every thug he trusted were gone, and the city was mine. Everyone elected me the new Lord, and wanting the whole thing to start clean, I renamed it Tomorrow. The manifest in my hand is short enough to memorize. 2 ordinary cannons and 6 shells for them. 4 ordinary heavy machine guns and better than 200 rounds. 6 pistols, better than 40 bullets. 25 ordinary knives, 2 level 1 weapons, and 87 crystal coins. 35 units of iron ore, 23 of wood, 115 of fresh water, 15 of gunpowder, 25 steamed buns, 17 potatoes, 3 cans of meat, half a bag of flour. And the city sits at 15% energy. I read the whole list twice and let out a breath. The old Lord had no concept of resource management and spent like a man who expected to die rich. So this is what is left for me. Scarcity is the problem, and it is standing directly in front of me. Food and fresh water to stay alive, iron ore and oil for production and upgrades, bullets and shells for defense, and I am badly short of every one of them. Worse, after a night of reshuffling, Tomorrow has no mechanic, no gunner, no lookout, no combat captain, and can barely keep itself running day to day. It really is rough. I put the list away and walked the gangway down to the cockpit. Inside, a thin 17-year-old is working the control panel one-handed while flipping through a driving manual as thick as a dictionary with the other, and he is wound tight enough to snap. He brightens when he sees me and says I have finally come. I nod and reach over and wipe the sweat off his forehead. His name is Dang Bin, a slave same as me, weak and often ill and very quick. And when I took over, I put him on the helm with a try-it-and-see attitude. He had the operating procedure down in under 2 hours and got Tomorrow moving. This boy is far past what I estimated, and he may genuinely turn into an excellent helmsman. Then a dark-skinned, middle-aged man comes striding in and reports that the bodies are dealt with, and the supplies are sorted. He remembers something else and adds that they also handled the Lord's turned confidant the way I suggested. I keep my eyes on the screen and make a noise of acknowledgement. That is old Jew, the first person I met after I arrived and the first slave to sign on to my plan, and he serves as my second now. When the small talk runs out, all 3 of us end up looking at the same glaring line on the panel. 15% energy remaining. At the most efficient setting, Tomorrow burns 2% a day, which means that without a supply of energy, this city shuts down completely inside a week. Out here, where monsters are the default state of the ground, stopping is an extremely dangerous thing to do. I recover first and pat both of them on the shoulder and tell them not to worry, that it will be fine, and that we should decide where to go before anything else. Then a prompt opens in front of my eyes. The intelligence system is activated. The first entry tells me that last night the monsters at Grow Mine were dug in extremely tight, and the level 1 mobile city Azure's offensive failed outright. Azure took severe damage in several areas including its water tower. That Azure's lord was critically wounded and is unconscious with better than half his people dead or hurt. Its intelligence value is normal. The second says that in 15 minutes a level 1 iron ore vein will refresh 12 miles to the southeast and the vein is medium scale, and that one is excellent. The third says a convoy is trapped in a corpse tide on the edge of the rotting land, and it is rare. The fourth says that in 3 days the wild boss lava spider queen, boss level 1, will descend in Firefeather Forest, and that is excellent. The fifth is still refreshing, and it is epic. An intelligence system. I get about 1 second of pure elation before I get hold of myself and start reading properly. I have never heard of Grossmine or of Azure, but I assume the first is a resource-rich point and that Azure went at it to take what was there. Out in the wild, fights breaking out over resource points are routine. The second entry is the one that lights me up, because a medium-scale vein refreshing 12 miles away produces roughly 500 units of level 1 iron ore. Iron ore is the basic resource for production and upgrades and functions as hard currency in the Wasteland. People out here would gut each other over a vein like that, and I get to walk up and mine it. The third entry is genuinely interesting. A convoy trapped in a corpse tide on the edge of the rotting land. I turn it over and wonder whether that is a convoy of survivors or a convoy some wasteland power sent out looking for supplies. Because the situation out here is tangled and there are a great many factions in it. The fourth entry is worth more still. The Lava Spider Queen is a level 1 wild boss, and killing her drops a heavy pile of resources and possibly her own unique weapon items. More importantly, she certainly drops a level 2 item. The region I am sitting in is called the Wasteland area. It is a level 1 area, and what it produces is generally level 1. And the odds of a level 2 item turning up here are so low as to be unheard of. Wild bosses are the ceiling among wasteland monsters, with combat power and defense that are frankly ridiculous, and they carry powerful special skills on top. A level 1 wild boss is generally reckoned comparable to a fully equipped level 1 mobile city, and in practice the city's win rate is often under 30%. All I can do about that one is admire it from a distance, because tomorrow does not have the people, has no lookout, no combat captain, no mechanic, and simply does not have the strength to kill her. Even so, I can sell the intelligence for resources. The fifth is still turning over. I look at the epic tag sitting in the bar, and my breathing goes hot. An excellent entry is already remarkable, so I cannot begin to guess what an epic one holds. Dang Bin turns us southeast on my word, half believing and half not. A while later, a medium-scale iron ore vein comes up in front of all three of us, and he and old Jew go instantly electric, while I nod to myself. I tell them to gather everyone because we are mining now. Tomorrow has 13 people on it in total. I leave Dang Bin standing by in the cockpit, pick out the sharpest pair of eyes among us to sit the watchtower as a temporary lookout, and take the rest to the vein. It turns out the vein looks rather like something out of a game, shaped like a small hill with ore of every size studding the surface. On the way over, I look thoughtfully at the pickaxe in my hand. The panel calls it a pickaxe at item level 1, with an attached effect of mining efficiency increased by 10%, and crafting it takes 3 units of level 1 iron ore. After the apocalypse, a great many supernatural changes came over this world, and the largest of them was the arrival of levels. Even the lowest level 1 item works significantly harder than an ordinary one. The monsters carry levels too, and ordinary weapons can no longer meaningfully hurt a level 1 monster, so killing one requires a level 1 weapon in your hands. Item levels run 1 through 7, and every step up raises what the item can do. Mobile cities run on the same 1 through 7 scale. A level 1 city holds 500 to 1,000 people and is called town level. A level 2 holds 5 to 10,000 and is island level. A level 4 holds 200 to 500,000 and is city level. A level 5 holds 1 to 5 million and is kingdom level. A level 6 holds 10 to 20 million and is mobile continent level. A level 7 holds 50 to 100 million and is civilization level. Reading that scale while standing on the very bottom rung of it does something to a man. Several hours of work later we finish the vein, and I put the pickaxe away and wipe my forehead, thoroughly content. 514 units of level 1 iron ore, which is about 2 weeks of harvest for a mobile city. And underneath the satisfaction I'm doing arithmetic I do not like. Tomorrow is so short of hands that mining one vein takes every person we have, the Lord included. Thin manpower means the mining runs long, and a long run out in the open sharply raises the odds of a monster finding us. Back in the cockpit I look down at the third entry in the system bar and chew on it. Save the convoy or not. Rare grade means valuable, and the convoy might be loaded with supplies, or it might have a mechanic in it. I want it. And then I think about the corpse tide and cool off fast. Zombies are the most common level 1 monster in the Wasteland area, and they come in tides that leave nothing alive behind them, and even the lowest level 1 tide is a serious problem. If I had 1 level 1 cannon or 1 level 1 heavy machine gun, tomorrow's guns are ordinary grade and cannot do anything meaningful to a tide, and one wrong step there is not a setback. It is the end of the city. I turn it over a long while and then tell Dang Bin to adjust course, because we are going to the rotting land. Off the gangway and down into the small processing plant, I hold up the ring on my left arm and the door rolls open. This plant is the core building of any mobile city and everyone calls it the production workshop. The ring I just held up is the Lord's hand ring, which controls the whole city, and only the person wearing it can produce, upgrade, and grant permissions to anyone else. I step in and open the machine screen and the whole list of what I can make lays itself out. A common axe takes 1 unit of iron ore. A wooden bed takes 3 units of wood. A common cannonball takes 3 of iron ore and 1 of gunpowder. Pistol bullets run 25 rounds per unit of iron ore, and common machine gun rounds 20 per unit. A heavy machine gun wants 150 units of iron ore and a cannon wants 200. Leveled goods like a level 1 mining pick or a level 1 flashlight want considerably more than that. I can also upgrade tomorrow's city components, and the list there is short too. City light armor is a level 1 component at 300 units of level 1 iron ore. Propulsion tracks are a level 1 component at 100. The energy-saving circuit system wants 250 of iron ore and 100 of copper ore. The lightwood gangway wants 10 units of level 1 wood. The power wheel set wants 400 of iron ore. All told, tomorrow can craft about 20 things, items, and components combined, which is a pitiful number. Unlocking more means getting hold of design blueprints, which are a precious wasteland resource in their own right. Refrigerators, computers, motorcycles, even level 1 weapons and firearms and cannons. And as long as you hold the matching blueprint, you feed it into the workshop and the project unlocks and you can build it. Blueprints come mainly from killing monsters and from resource point output. For a level 1 city, the more level 1 blueprints you hold, the more supplies and weapons you can make, and the better your odds out here. I stroke my chin and think, a corpse tide needs preparation. After some work, I turn out 15 cannonballs, 2,000 machine gun rounds, and 200 pistol bullets, which eats better than 150 units of level 1 iron ore. I do not feel it much, since I still have close to 400 on hand. There is better than an hour of travel left to the rotting land, so I tell everyone to rest properly and get ready to fight. They are puzzled and they nod anyway, because I am the one who personally led them against the old lord, so my standing among them is not a thing anybody questions. While they rest, I go up the watchtower and look out over the land. Towns and villages that used to be human are ruins now. Roads are buried under sand. Wrecked cars sit half swallowed by dust, and every crop and every stand of vegetation is dead. What there is instead is monsters, in numbers. Hideous snake men holding the village ruins. Burly wild boar men hunting in packs. Short, cunning goblins sitting around bonfires with the ragged spoils of somebody else's bad day heaped around them. This world does not belong to humans anymore. An hour and change later, tomorrow reaches the edge of the rotting land, and the name earns itself immediately. It is a desolate, lifeless stretch of the wasteland area that almost nobody walks. A thin green mist hangs over it permanently. The air is full of rotten mold. The soil is a sick, dark black that oozes foul mud underfoot. The water is all turbid with rainbow oil slicks on top and dead fish or dead people drifting through it. Everything green here died a long time ago. The monsters holding this place are a humanoid type called the Ant People. In the cockpit, I fill a magazine and seat it in my pistol. The hour of rest has put back most of what the mining took out of me. Setting aside Dangbin on the helm and the man on the watchtower, I have 10 people to deploy. I put 2 on the cannons, 4 on the heavy machine guns, and keep the last 4 with me. Ammunition and knives go around, and that includes the 2 level 1 weapons. The panel names one of them a wild boar men's dining knife at item level 1. Its additional effect is damage increased by 3%, and it crafts at 5 units of level 1 iron ore. A note that the workshop does not hold its blueprint, so it cannot be made. Both of these were dropped by monsters out in the wasteland, and I have no idea how hard they hit. I keep one and hand the other to Old Jew. Then the man on the watchtower shouts that there is a zombie horde spotted 2/3 of a mile ahead. I get up there fast and take the binoculars off him and look. What fills the lenses is a dense dark mass, and inside the mass are countless level 1 zombies with rotted bodies and twisted joints and ferocious faces. There are easily 1,000 or 2,000 of them. Down in the cockpit, Dangbin goes white and unsteady on his feet, and every other expression around me starts to slip. I look harder and find the convoy inside the horde. 4 off-road vehicles and 2 trucks. 2 of the off-roads and both trucks are already flipped, their outer armor shed and their doors breached, and none of that is coming back. The 2 surviving off-roads are so thickly covered in zombies that they cannot move an inch. I lower the binoculars and make the call. We are getting them out. A few minutes later, both of tomorrow's cannons fire at once, and 1 shell misses completely while the other lands badly off. I shake my head at it. We do not have shells to spare, and I just spent 2 of them on nothing, and I do not blame the men. Because they are emergency stand-ins rather than gunners, and nobody untrained calculates wind and humidity and trajectory well enough to hit a target 2/3 of a mile out. The zombies hear the explosions instantly, and every head in that mass swings toward us, and a great many of them change direction and come. Rotted bodies and twisted joints, and they move at a speed that has no business being real. 1,000 yards, then 900, then 8, and the gap keeps closing. Sweat comes up on my forehead. Everything I have heard about corpse tides is about the numbers and the speed. The point of them is that firepower does not matter when the mass can simply arrive on top of you before you have thinned it, and this is only a level 1 tide. I ordered Dangbin to full throttle and get us out. I had already had him turn us a few minutes before the cannons fired, so tomorrow starts building speed with a roar. The cannons keep working the whole time and keep pulling more of the horde onto us. 500 yards, 400, 300. The sound of that many zombies running puts a tremor in the deck, and their roaring stacks up in the air on top of the tremor. With those faces underneath it, the whole thing is genuinely hard to stand in front of. All 4 heavy machine guns open up at once and sweep the mass, while shells drop in among them and burst one after another. Watching it, I shake my head bitterly, because the display is impressive and the killing is almost nil. Machine gun rounds cannot tear a level 1 zombie apart and only stiffen it and knock it back. Shells cannot destroy the bodies and at best blow pieces off, and a great many of the ones that come apart get up and keep coming. It is exactly as advertised, only a level 1 weapon meaningfully damages a level 1 monster. Out ahead, with the horde's attention on us, both surviving off-roads take the opening and break loose. Neither of them runs. They accelerate to catch up and start sweeping the horde alongside us. The zombies chase like their bodies do not cost them anything, and some of them run so hard they go straight under our tires and tracks and are gone. Then several of them are up on tomorrow's outer shell. We drop pistols and empty them, and ordinary pistols do exactly what the machine guns did, which is stiffen a body and push it back. With the thing tipping over, I stop thinking about it, pull the wild boar man's dining knife off my waist, and go straight in. Old Jew and the others are startled for exactly 1 second, and then they are behind me. I swing the knife and the zombie in front of me comes apart like butter, and the surprise nearly stops me where I stand. A level 1 weapon hits like this. I go back to work considerably more enthusiastic about it. Half an hour later at maximum speed, tomorrow finally shakes the horde. I put the knife down and breathe out, and the deck around me is carpeted in remains. Old Jew and I killed all of them with the dining knives while the rest laid down covering fire. I tally what it cost. Every cannonball gone, better than 1,600 machine gun rounds gone, better than 150 pistol rounds gone, and with no gunpowder in the warehouse I cannot make new shells. Dang Bin reports that pushing to escape burned another 2% of the city's energy. It stings, and I look around and let out a breath anyway, because nobody died and that is the part that counts. Old Jew puts his eyes on mine and tells me seriously, word by word, that I should not have charged out like that because it was far too dangerous, that I am the backbone of this place, and if something happened to me. I smile and wave it off and then pull him and the men around him into a hard hug. Every one of these people risked their life in the uprising beside me, and every one of them is trustworthy. In the apocalypse, a trustworthy brother is the most valuable thing there is. While we clear the remains, I look over the side. Both off-roads have stayed with us, sitting close behind, and one of them sounds its horn as though asking us to stop. Once I have confirmed there is nothing lurking nearby, I have Dangbin bring tomorrow to a halt and take everyone down on the lift platform. The 2 vehicles stop near us, their doors open, and several figures climb out. 6 of them, 5 men, and 1 striking young woman. She looks about 20, short-haired, in a jacket and jeans with a short knife and a pistol at her waist, and a distinctly capable air about her. From how the men handle themselves around her, she is clearly the one in charge. Before she can start, I hold up a hand and keep it short. I saved them, I tell her, and I need compensation. The men trade glances and she smiles a little and says not to worry, that they know how this works. I nod at that, because getting compensated was precisely why I came. I expected them to agree, since they did not run once they were free but stayed and helped clear the horde, which is not what ungrateful people do. She says she thinks this item is enough to express their gratitude, and puts something straight into my hand, and my pupils blow wide. The panel reads blue heart potato seeds. Item level 1, and the effect is that they grow into blue heart potatoes 1 week after planting. I did not expect the thank you to be a level 1 crop. Level 1 crops grow faster and yield more than ordinary ones, and they are the main food source of mobile cities. I close my hand around that bag and my heart goes hard in my chest, because with this, tomorrow's food problem stops being a problem. If food stops being a problem, I can recruit, and recruiting is the whole bottleneck. Everyone standing behind me works it out at the same speed I did. Once the seeds are away, I take a proper look at the group and find that their equipment is level 1 across the board, and both off-roads are level 1 as well. No wonder they lasted that long inside a horde. This is not a survivor convoy, this is a mobile cities convoy, sent out for supplies and unlucky enough to meet a level 1 corpse tide on the way home. I do let my eyes rest a little too long on the level 1 pistols at their waists. Because out here, a level 1 sidearm is the practical answer, since it holds distance and still does real damage. Though if I am choosing, I want level 1 heavy machine guns and level 1 artillery. She tells me their haul on the rotting land was quite good, and that they had not expected a horde on the way back. Then she thanks me for the rescue and starts to say where they are from. One of the men pats her shoulder as a reminder. I am not surprised by that at all, because hearts are treacherous in an apocalypse, and we are passing acquaintances at best. What does surprise me is that she finishes the sentence anyway. They are from Roland Fortress, she says, and she is Ha, the daughter of the Roland Fortress Lord, and she says it with a bright smile on her face. Still surprised, I nod at her and tell her I am Li Yeop, Lord of Tomorrow. One of the men hesitates and then unslings his pack and offers it, saying that if the compensation is not enough, then this can also. I wave him off and shake the level 1 crop at them and tell him it is fine and this is plenty. And then I turn and take my people home. Behind me, the man comes back to himself and murmurs that the ones outside are not as bad as everyone imagines, and that this young one at least seems decent. That crop was their biggest gain from the trip, and handing it over hurts less than they expected, since Roland Fortress already has level 1 crops of its own. What they were worried about was my people being greedy, and my reaction as the one in charge has thrown them a little. Remembering the horde closing around them, relief at simply being alive goes across the man's face. He tells the young woman that from now on she should leave the wild exploring to them because it is far too dangerous for her to come out herself. She asks softly whether they are not in danger too. She brushes the loose hair back off her ear, and something complicated and unhappy comes into her eyes. She says she has to grow up quickly because her father does not have much time left. Back on Tomorrow, I put Old Jew and the others straight onto sowing the Blue Heart potato seeds. We have farmland, and as a level 1 city our space is small, so it comes to only a few plots. The scale is limited and what it produces has never been close to enough, which is why the shortfall has always been covered by searching the wild and trading outside. The plots used to grow ordinary potatoes and corn, tended by slaves assigned to it. Alongside mining out in the wild, working those fields used to be my job. When the Lord and his thugs came past, a good mood meant they called me over and whipped me a couple of times for the entertainment. A bad mood meant more. After taking this city, I found a new set of clothes in the warehouse and got out of the white shirt with my own blood dried across the back of it. The wound has not closed, so every so often I reach back and pull the fabric off it. Old Jew and the men are more excited than I am and are practically howling as they turn the soil. I stand off to the side, working my chin and thinking ahead, because once the first batch of Blue Heart potatoes comes in, we can cut the rhizomes for new seed and replant, and the supply becomes continuous. In an apocalypse, food is manpower. Tomorrow's food shortage is about to be solved for the near term, and my mood comes up several shades with it, because now I can go and get people. With hope in it, 1 week is not the ordeal it looked like, and everybody can carry it with a little patience. Potatoes 3 meals a day is rough, and this is the wasteland after the end of the world, and filling your stomach every day is already very good. Then something else occurs to me. The 5th intelligence should have refreshed by now. I have been opening that panel and looking at the epic entry rather more often than I would admit to anyone. Because an excellent one is already valuable and an epic one has to be extraordinary. When I open it, the entry has landed, and the content of it is this. In 3 months, the wasteland area will be completely destroyed. My expression goes as I read it. In 3 months, all of it. Monsters, survivor villages and towns, survival convoys, fortresses, mobile cities, and I am currently the only person in the wasteland area who knows. I look at the epic tag and nod at it with genuine respect, because without that warning I would have died in 3 months without ever knowing why. And immediately behind that comes the enormous question. What is it that destroys an entire area? When I walk into the cockpit, Dang Bin is not on the helm at all. His hands are down and he is resting in the chair while Tomorrow cruises along steady. I stop, work out what that means, and ask him in surprise whether he can already put Tomorrow on autopilot. Mobile cities do have an autopilot mode, and its operating instructions are nothing like pressing a button, because a series of codes has to go into the control panel. Which heading the city takes, what speed it holds, what size of obstacle it needs to avoid, all of that has to be set. And he learned to enter autopilot in under half a day on the helm. It seems he really does have a talent for driving, I tell him, and I clap his shoulder. He waves it off with a bitter face and says no. He calls me Hyung and says he is a half-baked amateur, that he is genuinely afraid of wrecking something, that it would be better to find another helmsman. My own expression goes melancholy at that, because in this apocalypse a helmsman is a talent you might not meet once in several years. Even if I got lucky and found one, I would not dare hand him helm authority over Tomorrow on trust. The only version of this I can sleep through is a helmsman I trained from nothing. Then I look at him properly, sweating and worn through, and something turns over in me. Since last night, since we took this city, this frail sick kid has been driving it without a break, hammering operating knowledge into his head, straining not to make one mistake. He has not even eaten a piece of dry rations, only taken a few sips of water. I tell him he has worked hard, clap his shoulder again, hand him something to eat, and tell him to eat fast and then rest. He takes it without looking, and then goes completely still when he sees what it is. A can of meat. There are 3 on this city, and they used to be food that only the Lord and his closest were qualified to enjoy. Since we took over, to stretch the stores, the rest of us have been eating 1 steamed bun or 1 boiled potato a day. He looks at me, then opens the can blankly and starts eating. A few bites in, he puts his head down, wipes the corner of his eye and says sullenly that this stuff does not taste good. I am stunned for a beat, and then I am annoyed and amused at once. I ruffle his hair and tell him not to try that on me, that he has worked very hard driving this city and it is only right that he eats well. Then I look thoughtfully at the can, because the packaging is very new and was clearly produced recently, and it almost certainly came off some mobile city. To still have the resources to produce canned food after the end of the world means that city is doing considerably better than we are. Old Jew and the others come in about then and report that the blue heart potatoes are planted and the remains are cleared. Nobody's face does anything strange at the sight of Dang Bin eating canned meat next to me, though he gets embarrassed about it and sets the can aside. I nod around the room, clear my throat, and tell them it is good they are here because I have something to say. When the news lands that the Wasteland area will be destroyed in 3 months, the room stops. Old Jew's face changes and asks how that is even possible, and everyone else is full of doubt and talking over each other. I nod, heavy about it, and the talking slowly dies. They do not believe the news. They believe me. My own expression is not light either. The Wasteland area is a level 1 area and its scale is comparable to a country, which is to say absurdly large. The nearest region to it is the Eternal Night Zone, which is level 2, more dangerous by an order, with monsters to match. Not many people in the Wasteland know the road to Eternal Night, only that it is a long way. Getting there needs tomorrow fully staffed, well-resourced, with enough city components upgraded, preferably upgraded to a level 2 city outright, because a level 1 city walking into a level 2 area is a suicide with extra steps. And upgrading a city from 1 to 2 is nothing like as simple as it sounds, since it eats a massive volume of level 1 resources and wants various rare materials prepared, and an ordinary level 1 city might not manage it in 3 years. So I make the call and say it out loud. Within 3 months we prepare resources, find the road to Eternal Night, and get tomorrow to level 2. I eat a steamed bun and lie down on a small bed. Then I bring up the panel and look at the epic entry a while, closing my eyes now and then to work at it. That line keeps sitting wrong in me. Tomorrow has barely set sail and it is already looking at something this size. Beside the entry is another line saying intelligence is being gathered and asking me to wait patiently, with an hourglass flickering next to it, so the system evidently enters a cooldown once everything is refreshed. About half an hour later the hourglass turns into a check mark. The cooldown reads complete. The time to the next refresh reads 7 hours 59 minutes and 59 seconds, and the quantity reads 5. I did not expect it to come back that fast. The bar explains itself when I read it. Both the quantity and the interval of each refresh are random, and there is a pattern underneath the randomness. That is that the longer the refresh takes, the more entries arrive and the higher their value. If a refresh ever runs several days or a full week, there is even a chance of legendary intelligence which sits above epic. Sleep starts creeping up on me and I yawn and close my eyes, because I have not rested properly since last night. I hope this one comes back good. When I wake it is already dark, and I have no idea how long I was out. I open the system immediately, and there are 5 fresh entries waiting. Azure regrouped this afternoon and took a monster-held mine, and after treatment by its physician the Azure Lord's injuries improved and he came around, though his left arm has been amputated, and that is common. There is an unpolluted freshwater lake 3 miles to the northeast, also common. 60 miles west there is a survivor town called Primitive Town, with 161 people, no cannons, no heavy machine guns, an offensive common scale, which rates excellent. 5 minutes ago, the level 1 mobile city Scarlet Hound finished building a level 1 cannon. Its arms scale now stands at 96 combat personnel, 4 vehicle teams, 2 level 1 cannons, 8 ordinary cannons, 14 ordinary heavy machine guns, and better than 120 assorted firearms, also excellent. And the morning after next, a dog-headed merchant caravan will appear in Thunder Canyon, all of them neutral, and collecting candles and giving them to the caravan might get me something good, which rates rare. I frown my way through all 5. Compared to the first round, this is clearly a weaker set, with 1 rare being the best of it, and that at least confirms the system's rule about time and value. I rub my eyes, get my head straight, and work through them properly. 2 of them hold my attention. 8 ordinary cannons, 14 heavy machine guns, 4 vehicle convoys, 96 combat personnel, better than 120 firearms, and 2 level 1 cannons on top of that. The Scarlet Hound's armament is astonishing, and combat power like that is already enough to erase a town on a whim. I sit there wondering whether the Wasteland area really does hold a mobile city that strong, and then a doubt starts spreading in me. Why does one city carry 96 combat personnel? Do those men do labor the rest of the time, or do they only fight? And if it is only fighting, how many slaves does it take to feed them daily? The guess arrives quickly. The Scarlet Hound probably does not hold as many people as the number suggests. The overwhelming majority of its residents are combat personnel, and its primary way of living is to sustain war with war, killing monsters, hitting survivor towns, seizing resource points, hunting other mobile cities. That is far faster than laboring and farming and collecting. A city that lives that way is usually called a predatory city. For the moment, all I can do is quietly pray I do not run into the Scarlet Hound. Then the 5th. There are countless monsters out here, and they are generally hostile the second they see a human, and killing them can yield crystal coins, materials, weapon items, or precious blueprints. A monster merchant caravan is an extremely rare exception, because everything in the caravan is neutral and humans can trade and interact freely. The system has told me flatly that giving candles to this one can get me something good. I nodded it, because that entry is the most valuable in this round, and our warehouse currently holds 2 boxes of candles, and I would very much like to know what 2 boxes buy. Having planned out the next stretch, I walk into the cockpit. Everyone is split into watch shifts under my arrangement, and since it is night and visibility is gone, the temporary lookout has gone back to rest and will take the tower again in the morning. Walking the gangway, I look around at nothing but a vast dark, with the only light coming off the forward searchlight and the scattered lamps on the hull. In the cockpit, Dang Bin is resting with his eyes shut. An old Jew is beside him, and both of them get up quickly when they see me. I tell Dang Bin to turn us and run 3 miles northeast, and that after that we are going to Thunder Canyon. The two of them exchange a look, both surprised. From where they and everyone else are standing, I appear to have woken up this morning with some ability to see what is coming. For people who trust me, that is not a bad thing. Not long after, in the searchlight, an unpolluted freshwater lake comes into view. I work the control panel and a gap opens along Tomorrow's flank and a huge pipe runs out into the water. And on the dashboard, the freshwater figure starts climbing. What we draw goes into the water tower, which currently holds 3,000 units. That is only an ordinary grade tower, and a level 1 tower would store a frankly exaggerated amount more. And unfortunately, I do not have the blueprint for one. Watching the number climb, Dang Bin and Old Jew both settle considerably. I open the map and mark the lake's location carefully, and calling it a map is generous, because it is mostly a large blank with a great deal of unexplored inside it. While the tower fills, the 3 of us talk about nothing much, and then all 3 of us look at the same spot on the dashboard. Energy remaining, 11%. I tell them not to worry, that we still have a great deal of level 1 iron ore, and that if it comes to it, we burn that for fuel. A mobile city's energy supply is a genuinely magical thing, because coal, ore, oil, wood, even cloth or garbage will replenish it when fed in, with garbage giving very little and coal and oil giving a great deal. Dang Bin's brows come straight down at that, and he asks bitterly whether we can please not use the iron ore, because that is genuinely wasteful. I agree with him, since level 1 iron ore is the essential resource for production and upgrades, and burning it is a waste. We have 11%, I tell him, which carries us a few more days, and if it truly comes down to it, we will burn ore then. Then I pat both their shoulders and tell them to rest properly because there is work tomorrow. The new day comes up and tomorrow reaches Thunder Canyon. On the tower, I raise the binoculars and it does not take long to find the dog-headed merchant caravan, the entry named. I pass the word to Dang Bin down the speaking tube to bring us in closer, and as the gap shrinks, I get a proper look at the whole thing. A dozen or so dog-headed merchants on small horses, loaded with packages large and small, and to my surprise, a body of dog-headed cavalry riding guard on both flanks. Dang Bin's delighted voice comes up the tube saying we are so lucky to have run into a monster merchant caravan. I only smile a little at that. Luck had nothing to do with it. Tomorrow stops and I take Old Jew and a few others down with 2 boxes of candles and walk over. The merchants are wary at first, and then I hold up half a box of candles and every one of them goes still. And then they are off their horses and hurrying toward me. I take one candle out and wave it in front of them and ask what one is worth. One of them thinks about it and pulls a completely black level 1 ore out of his pack, and I very nearly say the word out loud. Shadow ore. That is a rare resource, produced only by rare veins like shadow ore veins, and one piece sells for a great deal of money. I think for a moment and hand over half a box and ask what that is worth. Another of them rummages and produces an item like a conjuring trick. The panel calls it a caravan portable travel refrigerator at item level 1, with an effective energy consumption reduced by 20%. Half a box of candles for a level 1 item, and I say so out loud, surprised. The energy saving is genuinely good, and I have no use for it right now. So I think a little more and simply hand over both boxes and ask what that is worth. Every merchant in the caravan erupts. They swarm in front of me, hauling things out of their packs, all of them desperate to trade. And after a dazzling few minutes of that, I see one thing among the rest. A Falcon Assault Rifle design blueprint. The panel gives it as Falcon Assault Rifle, item level 1, with accuracy up 2% and damage up 6%, crafting at 50 units of level 1 iron ore. My eyes light up on the spot. That one is good. It is not only me. Old Jew and the others standing beside me go instantly electric, because a level 1 weapon, an assault rifle at that, moves tomorrow's arm strength a long way and means we stop being helpless every time a level 1 monster looks at us. I have not fully come back to myself by the time the trade is done, since I did not expect 2 boxes of candles to buy anything like this. Then I look at the bags hanging off every one of those merchants, and cannot help doing the arithmetic. There are a great many good things on these creatures, and taking the lot at once would make me rich in an afternoon. Then I look at the cavalry riding guard, and the thought dies quickly. There are 200 or 300 of them, no small number of them elite grade, and the commander at the head is an elite captain. Level 1 repeating crossbows, level 1 lances, level 1 rifles, level 1 portable rocket launchers, and reading that list puts a cold sweat on me. I let it go. On the way out, I turn back and ask, tentatively, whether I could bring candles and trade with them again in future. Every merchant shakes his head, and one holds a single finger up and wags it gently. I understand him. 1 transaction only. And the more candles you give, the better what you get. Looking down at the blueprint in my hand, I nod slightly, because an opportunity like a monster caravan is genuinely rare. Since you need to know when and where it appears, and you also need to know how it trades, and most people would never manage both. Once the blueprint goes in, the workshop unlocks the Falcon Assault Rifle immediately, and my excitement takes a hit the moment I read the crafting cost. 50 units of level 1 iron ore for 1 rifle is genuinely painful, considering upgrading the city's propulsion tracks only wants 100. That said, once the first one comes out, I pick it up delighted and admire it far longer than a grown man should. Unlocking the rifle also unlocked its ammunition, at 15 rounds per unit of iron ore. I spend 350 ore in one run and turn out 5 Falcon Assault Rifles and 1,500 rounds. Looking at the guns and the heaped bullets in front of me, my sense of safety goes up enormously. These are level 1 weapons, and they are assault rifles. And against level 1 monsters, they are going to be brutal. I will not be standing helpless in front of a corpse tide again. Then I look at the under 50 units of iron ore left over, and my brows come down again. These resources are genuinely useful, and there is genuinely never enough of them. Old Jew asks where we go next. I think about it and point. Due west. A few hours later, I lift the telescope on the watchtower, and a small town comes up on the horizon. Primitive town. Down there, a good many people have already been woken by the sound of us coming, finding a moving city bearing down on them. Some are astonished, some are full of doubt, and some are simply terrified. Out here, a town like that, with no heavy machine guns, no artillery, and a very weak fence, sits at the bottom of the food chain. They almost certainly think I have come to rob them. I put the telescope down, tell the man beside me to keep watching the town, and go down. Under my plan, Dang Bin holds the cockpit, the lookout holds the tower, and a few more stay aboard in case the heavy machine guns are needed. I also leave one man standing at the artillery, and though the shells are gone, the people of Primitive Town do not know that, so the bluff still works. Everyone else comes with me. Tomorrow stops and we ride the lift platform down while heads poke out of windows and doorways to watch us. As we walk, Old Jew quietly puts himself between me and the town. I catch it and laugh softly, because I appreciate the instinct and the system already told me this place has no artillery and no firearms, and poses very little threat. Every one of us is carrying a gun. The mayor is an old man with a white head and a white beard. No goodwill toward us at all, brows knotted the whole time. Only after I explain what I have come for does the disdain ease off his face, and he sighs and says fine, and that he hopes we act quickly and leave as soon as possible. The market is one short street and there is not much on it. Mostly cultivated grain and homemade dry rations, occasionally old furniture and appliances, and sometimes iron ore and wood and coal dug out of the wild. I sort my objectives out in my head. First, supplies. I want as much fuel and coal as this place will part with to put energy back into tomorrow, and I need a batch of saltpeter, because 1 unit of saltpeter processes into 1 unit of gunpowder in the workshop for shells. I need more grain besides, since the Blue Heart potatoes want a week and what is left aboard will not cover that week. Second, talent. Running a mobile city properly needs a helmsman for driving and a gunner to calibrate and fire the artillery. It needs a mechanic for daily maintenance and component replacement, and a lookout to hold the tower and read the wasteland in real time. A combat captain for internal order and external fighting. On top of those, I need at least 20 residents to fill fuel, mine in the wild, clean the city, and work the fields. Third, information. Looking around the street, I suspect I am going to get very little of any of it. The market is this size and cannot supply everything I want in one visit. The population is small enough that finding professionals like a helmsman or a gunner or a mechanic is unlikely. Never mind 20 residents. For talent and supplies, every scrap counts. What makes it worse is that I have under 100 crystal coins to my name. Crystal coins are the universal wasteland currency, translucent pale blue hard coins, and the going rates are simple enough. 1 buys a small bag of coarse food. 3 buys an old chair, 10 buys a liter of gasoline, or a small bag of vegetables and fruit. What I am carrying does not buy much of anything. Then I turn my head, catch sight of our own water tower, and the answer arrives. I ask whether they are short of fresh water and tell them that while I do not have many crystal coins, I can trade fresh water for their supplies. To my surprise, fresh water is exactly what Primitive Town is short of, and over the past few days, several people have been hurt or killed looking for it. Tomorrow arriving has effectively solved their most urgent problem. It does not take long before I am surrounded. After some hard bargaining, I pay out 1,000 units of fresh water, and the goods pile into a small mountain in front of me. 82 units of fuel and 126 units of coal are what the entire market could give me. As it goes in one load at a time, tomorrow's energy climbs from 11% to 27%. That is not back to the 60% safety line, and gathering this much is still very good. On top of it, I trade for better than 300 steamed buns, 2 sacks of potatoes and corn, a bag of flour, better than a dozen packs of homemade biscuits, and I buy 2 boxes of candles. The one regret is that there was no saltpeter to be had, so I still cannot make shells. With old Jew hauling the supplies back, I rub my hands together and start on the people. As expected, there is no gunner and no mechanic in Primitive Town. For ordinary residents, 3 people come forward, which figures since for a survivor, living in a town with almost no protection compares badly against entering a mobile city where safety goes up sharply. 3 is nowhere near enough. I explain patiently to those 3 what work they would do daily and what supplies they would be allotted. And partway through, one of them asks curiously whether tomorrow is very short of slaves. My brows come down slightly at the word. For a man who has been a slave and who risked his life with his brothers to break the people holding the whip, that word grates. I tell him no in a low voice, that I am not asking anyone to be a slave. I promise him he would become part of tomorrow and would not suffer inhuman enslavement or treatment of any kind. The crowd stirs at that, and a few more step out, and after some discussion I take on 6 more. I am about to walk all 9 back when a calm voice comes out of the crowd saying he thinks he can handle the mechanic position on tomorrow. I turn around surprised and find the speaker. Black hair, glasses, a wheelchair entirely unremarkable to look at, with a pallor that is not healthy, so he is not only disabled but ill on top of it. A little girl of 8 or 9 pushes the chair from behind, timid, and she looks like his younger sister. I ask him, surprised, whether he is a mechanic. He shakes his head gently and says no, that he has never worked on a mobile city. He has read a great many books on mechanics and believes putting them into practice should not be difficult. Then he adds that a mechanic ought to receive better treatment than an ordinary resident, and starts listing. He wants to bring the little girl who needs a fixed daily allotment of supplies and does not participate in work aboard. He also needs me to assign him a helper for the daily maintenance. Before he finishes, I shake my head slowly and tell him I am sorry. I cannot agree to that. Honestly, even if he is not a real mechanic, I would have given him a chance. Because mechanics are hard to come by out in the wild, and tomorrow has just started and has thin benefits to offer. So landing even an intern would be a blessing. But he is disabled and ill, and he wants to bring a child in and be given a helper, which means feeding and watering 2 people daily out of my stores, while losing 1 laborer. He thinks about it and then says he can also serve as helmsman. I go still and look at him with something close to delight, because if he can genuinely do both, then he can absolutely have that treatment. As though he can read it off my face, he adds that he has never served as a helmsman. He has read a great many books on driving mobile cities and believes putting them into practice should not be difficult. After a long hesitation, I nod. Tomorrow has just started and needs every kind of talent urgently. With the benefits I can currently offer, an experienced mechanic or helmsman would very likely not come at all, so passable is quite good. Fine, I sigh, and I ask his name. He adjusts his glasses and says Immu. Then he looks me over carefully and says softly that if he is not mistaken, I was once a slave. That stops me cold, and I ask him why. He says that from my expression when I heard the word slave, I strongly disliked the identity. There were the promises I made a moment ago, and that those two alone are not enough to confirm it. The main reason, he says, is that as I was walking just now, I kept reaching back to tug the cloth off my back. That probably means my back was frequently whipped by lords and thugs and carries a great many scars. Although I have changed into new clothes and nothing shows, those scars have probably not healed and itch and hurt when the fabric touches them. I nod slowly because I did not expect his eyes to be that good. I tell him to pack his things and come with me, and wave it off. He nods and starts to thank me by title. I wave that off too and tell him to call me Lord, because he is part of tomorrow now. Riding the lift platform up, Mu quietly lets out a breath and settles a little. He is disabled and ill with a child at his side, which makes living hard by itself. And worse than that, living in Primitive Town means permanent insecurity. Since monsters are everywhere and the town has no heavy machine guns and no artillery and very weak fortifications, so a corpse tide arriving means the place falls. He had come to my recruiting with a tentative mind and did not expect it to work. That is also why a great many Wasteland survivors would rather be slaves than stay outside. Since mobile cities are far safer than towns and usually carry artillery and machine guns, and even as slaves some cities still offer a road upward. I tell him from behind, calm about it, that I will meet every demand he made, and if he cannot do the job I will genuinely throw him and the girl off this city. He nods and says not to worry, that he will prove his worth, and then he strokes the head of the little girl pushing his chair, and adds that they are not siblings. I ask him what. Her name is So-Yan, he says, and she is his friend's younger sister. He says it softly while a light wind lifts his fringe and hides his lowered eyes. His friend always took care of him, and in the end died saving him, and before he died he handed his sister over, and asked him to take good care of her. Mu and the rest of the new arrivals are given their own rooms and their allotted fresh water and food, and when they see the rooms, delight goes across every face. They had assumed they were coming aboard to be slaves and had braced for it, since being a slave on a mobile city still beats being a resident of a town with no protection. What I am offering goes well past that, with a room each, food and drink daily, and work that is not backbreaking. In the cockpit I am frowning again, because it is still not enough people. 11 new arrivals, and those 11 have to manage the fields and mine in the wild and handle the daily cleaning. Among them, Mu only handles maintenance, and his friend's sister does not work at all, which quietly means 2 fewer hands, and what I said while recruiting was sincere. In this world it is normal for mobile cities to keep slaves, and a great many new arrivals quietly prepare to be slaves when they board one. What I want is not slaves, it is residents. A slave works listlessly. A resident develops a sense of belonging to a city and is far more willing to put something into it. A mobile city is a lone boat sailing on land, and it only goes further when everyone aboard pulls together. Then I bring the system up and look at the panel with some anticipation, because the cooldown is finished. Time to the next refresh reads 2 days, 23 hours, 59 minutes, 59 seconds, and the quantity reads 6. That is far longer than last time, and correspondingly there is one more entry in it. And its value has to be up sharply, and it might even carry an epic like the first round. I hold that down, rub my chin, and think, because I cannot afford to be idle for 3 days and still need to find a way to bring resources in. With the headcount aboard rising, daily consumption of food and fresh water has risen with it. The city burns energy every day on top, and a day with no harvest is a day of pure loss. Then old Jew's voice comes from outside telling me to come out because there is a situation. My stomach drops and I walk out of the workshop fast and ask whether we are under attack. He shakes his head and explains quickly. The lookout has found a mine roughly half a mile northwest of us. I wave a hand and tell him we are going up the tower to look at it. The wild carries a whole series of resource points. Forests, mines, veins, lakes, even oil fields. Mines are the most common of them and they yield the things mobile cities live on. Iron ore and copper ore and saltpeter. In the watchtower I take the binoculars and find it quickly, and the mine is held by a group of snake men. Snake men are tall, treacherous level 1 monsters with hands and feet that mostly walk upright and look rather more like lizards than snakes. There are 40 or 50 in this group, the overwhelming majority of them snake men laborers, with the rest being snake men overseers and snake men guards. The laborers are ordinary level 1 monsters in filthy work vests, currently swinging mining picks with some enthusiasm. The overseers and the guards are elite grade, the former carrying whips with blades tucked at the waist, the latter in armor with sword and shield, and considerably taller than the laborers. I put the binoculars down and say we are taking this mine, and send old Jew to call the men. While he goes, I start thinking seriously about how to fight it, because for a mobile city, attacking a resource point is nothing like child's play. You compare both sides' strength beforehand, you prepare weapons and ammunition, you gather manpower, and you pick your moment. Unlike zombies who mindlessly chase whatever is alive, snake men are intelligent monsters that use weapons, dodge bullets and shellfire, and build fortifications. 15 minutes later, I am ready. I deploy 15 people including Old Jew, put 4 of them on the heavy machine guns aboard for fire support, and take the rest to the mine. I carry one of the new Falcon assault rifles myself and the rest go to Old Jew and the others, with the remainder holding pistols. The snake men see us coming, stop working and charge out of the mine with considerable aggression. I squint, aim, and open fire. A few seconds in, it becomes clear I worried too much. As a level 1 firearm, the Falcon is genuinely powerful, and the laborers' sturdy bodies come apart like paper the moment bullets touch them, while the elite overseers and guards only manage 1 or 2 more rounds than that. One pass of sustained fire drops a large number of them. A second pass breaks their morale entirely, and a great many of them turn and run. I take the mine without a single casualty. Once I have confirmed the mine is clear and nothing is left alive, I wave it tomorrow and the new residents come down on the lift platform with mining picks and go in. Then I start going through the snake men bodies, because killing monsters means drops. The laborers only give up crystal coins and scattered iron ore and fabric. The elite overseers and guards do better, with some dropping 30 crystal coins at once and others 10 units of iron ore. To my surprise, I find a blueprint on one of the guards, and the panel reads hairdryer, item level common, additional effect none, crafting at 2 units of level 1 iron ore. A hairdryer. It is surprising and it is also faintly comical, because our daily freshwater allotment barely covers drinking, and brushing teeth and washing a face count as luxuries around here, never mind washing hair. Still, I do not object to owning more blueprints. Incidentally, the zombies that boarded us earlier also dropped things, and it came to a pitiful few crystal coins in total, which is exactly why lords avoid corpse tides at all costs. They are not only dangerous, they are poor. To speed things up, I simply put the combat personnel on picks as well. The mine is not large, and by my estimate it holds 200 or 300 units of iron ore, plus a small amount of copper ore and saltpeter. I am back in the cockpit drinking water and resting when the lookout's voice comes down the tube, badly rattled, saying there is bad news and a mobile city is coming at us. I come out of the chair and the water goes across the floor, and Dang Bin goes white beside me. Order everyone in the mine out immediately. I tell them, get men to the heavy machine guns, and once everybody is aboard, Dang Bin takes us to maximum speed. Then I let out a long breath somewhere inside, thoroughly disgusted with my luck, because I have just taken a resource point and a mobile city has walked into me. Our shells are gone, heavy machine guns barely scratch a city, and I have no means of attack at all. Giving up a freshly taken asset for nothing is the last thing I want, and retreat is the only thing available. Then the lookout comes back on the tube, surprised, saying that the city has stopped 2/3 of a mile out and asking why. And a second later, Dang Bin and I both hear its horn. 2 long, 1 short, which means it wants to talk. Mobile cities have no public communication channels, so over time they worked out a way of talking with the length of horn blasts. The method works well because it lets both sides hold a safe distance and still read each other's intentions clearly. Out here, cities are usually competitors and frequently enemies, and when 2 of them meet, they immediately open the distance and go to high alert, because the fastest way for a city to develop is to hunt another city. Succeed and everything the other side owns, resources and population both, becomes yours. Most importantly, you can walk into their production workshop and take every one of their production projects through the Lord's wristband, and that is the single largest improvement a mobile city can make. Half believing it, I go up the tower and put the binoculars on the thing. By its scale, it is another level 1 city, damaged in several areas, its water tower actually broken open. I match that against what I read earlier, and place it. This is Azure, the level 1 city whose attack on Gross Mine failed. It sounds the 2 long and 1 short again, and to show it means it voluntarily shuts down its engine and stands down its artillery and heavy machine guns. Then it sends 1 off-road vehicle toward us. The vehicle stops 1,000 feet out. 2 people get out and start waving at us, evidently wanting to talk, and I send Old Jew over with a few men. 10 minutes later, he comes back with their message, which is that the city is Azure. Their lord wants to make a deal. To show sincerity, their lord will come out and meet me personally. I think about it and nod and tell them to send their lord. Before long, he arrives in an off-road vehicle that stops at the same 1,000 feet. The door opens, and a middle-aged man with a severed left arm gets out slowly. Seeing him, I get ready to ride the lift platform down and talk. Old Jew puts a hand out fast and stops me, saying that man might not be Azure's lord at all, that it could be a trick, that for safety's sake I should not show myself and we should find somebody to impersonate me. I smile and wave him off and tell him to relax. He and the others cannot know it, and I know it perfectly well, because the earlier intelligence said Azure's lord had his left arm amputated after severe injuries, and that middle-aged man is the genuine article. He has shown enough sincerity that it would be unreasonable of me not to appear. Out on the open ground, the 2 of us stand face to face with our cities well behind us. He puts his hand out first and says he is Li Jin, Lord of Azure. I shake it and tell him, tomorrow, Li Yoop. He gets to his purpose directly. They want fresh water, he says, because they have not found a source in days and are nearly at their limit. Their water tower originally held a great deal, and a few days ago because he hears himself, catches it, coughs a couple of times, and does not continue. I very nearly smile, because he does not know that I know exactly what he attacked, why his arm came off, why the tower is broken, and what resource points he has taken lately. We have enough fresh water in reserve to sell him some. I tell him, and it is best if he pays in iron ore. He lets out a breath at that, and says all right, that they recently took a mine and pulled a good deal of ore out of it. After some bargaining, I trade 600 units of fresh water for 300 units of iron ore and 50 of saltpeter. While both sides are delivering, he happens to notice the Falcon assault rifles on Old Jew and the others. Asks in surprise whether those are level 1 firearms and whether we genuinely have that kind of thing, and says they only have ordinary guns and killing monsters normally takes a great deal of effort. Then, full of envy, he thinks of something and starts hesitating around a request. I smile a little and tell him I can sell him some, at 100 units of iron ore per rifle. His face goes dark on the spot. Crafting a level 1 firearm eats a lot of ore, he says, and at most it takes 50 or 60, and my price is outrageous. And he asks whether it can come down. 90 per rifle, I tell him, and that price does not move again. We go around a while longer, and seeing that I will not budge, he hesitates a long time, sighs softly, and evidently makes a hard decision. He says this should be enough, surely, and pulls something out of the inside of his coat. I focus on it and go still. A frost cannon blueprint. The panel gives it as frost cannon at item level 1. Its effect applies a freezing state on hit and also leaves the target vulnerable. It crafts at 300 units of level 1 frost ore and 1 level 1 frost crystal, and a note says its shells take 10 units of frost ore and 1 of gunpowder each. I rub my eyes at it, because I did not expect this man to be holding the blueprint for a level 1 cannon. He lays out his terms. He gives me the level 1 cannon blueprint, and in exchange I give him 6 assault rifles, plus 3,000 rounds and another 300 units of fresh water. In truth, he is very reluctant to let it go, since Azure's own cannons are only ordinary grade. He took it off an elite monster's corpse 3 months ago, and was ecstatic at the time, and in those 3 months, however hard he searched, he never found a frost ore vein. Rather than wait forever, he would rather convert it into a real improvement now. I agree with almost no hesitation, because a level 1 cannon moves the city's firepower a long way. I hand over the 5 rifles, and better than 1,000 rounds I have on hand. Use the ore he just gave me to produce 1 more rifle and the balance of the ammunition, and deliver the full amount. He tells me he has to warn me that frost ore only comes out of rare veins like frost ore veins, that frost crystals are only found alongside those veins with extremely low odds, and that sometimes even finding a vein does not get you a crystal. I nod. I know it, and with an intelligent system, finding a frost ore vein should be considerably easier than he imagines. The deal closes, and he takes his people away, and with a roar, Azure starts up, and is soon out of my sight. I tuck the blueprint into my pocket, quite satisfied. Trading between mobile cities has real benefits, since both sides move resources and level 1 items they need, and both come out stronger. It only works when it is built on mutual trust, or when both sides show enough sincerity to substitute for trust. I put people back on the mine after that. It is not large, and I have already assigned extra hands, so it runs dry in an hour and a half. The tally comes to 230 units of iron ore, 49 of saltpeter, and 23 of copper ore. Li Jin had traded me 300 units of ore, and after crafting that last rifle and the balance of ammunition, only a little over 100 of it remained. Adding the warehouse stock and what the snake men dropped, I now hold better than 400 units of iron ore. I go into the workshop and start immediately. I have no Falcon assault rifles left on hand and need new ones. Now that I have saltpeter, I can process it into gunpowder and make shells. And the heavy machine gun ammunition is nearly gone and wants replenishing. Rifles and their rounds, cannon shells, machine gun rounds. Before long, the iron ore figure is back to single digits, and I let out a breath at it. However much of this stuff I get, it is never enough. A few days on, I put the binoculars down on a watchtower and squint into a gentle wind on my face. The last 2 days have been unexpectedly quiet with no monsters at all, and my mood has not eased much for it, because the Wasteland area will be completely destroyed in 3 months, and that line hangs over me like a sword on a thread. Tomorrow needs to develop urgently, and in 2 days we have found no resources at all. Catching myself sliding toward anxious, I shake my head and tell myself not to be gloomy, because this new day has only just started. Then I look down over the whole of tomorrow from up here. As a level 1 city, she runs about 410 feet long and 260 feet wide, with a normal cruising speed of 6 to 19 miles an hour. She is built in 3 layers. The upper layer is the noble district at about 5% of the city space, with the best light and air, a small garden, an observation deck, Several spacious houses, and the old lord and his family and confidants lived up here, and incidentally the watchtower I am standing in is up here too. The middle layer is the civilian and living area, the largest section at about 70%, holding the residential blocks, the farmland, the water tower. The warehouses and its rooms are nowhere near as generous as the upper ones at roughly 97 square feet each. The lower layer is power and slave quarters at 25%, holding the power system, the fuel room, the cockpit, the production workshops, warehouses, and cranes. A level 1 city has a standard maximum capacity of 1,000 people. It can hold more by simply packing them in, and in practice very few level 1 cities ever reach the 1,000 mark. Because in a wasteland apocalypse you wake up into survival pressure every morning, and more people means more food and fresh water gone, while a city's resources are inherently limited. Coming down off the tower, I glance across the upper layer. Old Jew and I live up here now, in rooms that are spacious and furnished with wardrobes and desks and nightstands. That is an enormous improvement on our living conditions as slaves, and I am in the Lord's room, which has a proper sprung bed and even a private bathroom. Then my eye crosses the small garden and the observation deck and my brows come down slightly, because to me those two are surplus. Space aboard is already tight, and it would be better to tear both of them out, up here where the sunlight is this good, and turn the ground into fields. Down the gangway toward the middle layer I pass several busy people, the new arrivals cleaning the city. We are still short-handed, so the new ones are mining resources and then working the fields, and the cleaning in whatever is left over. I glance at the plots, which are full of pale blue leaves now, the blue heart potatoes from a few days ago, and in a few more days I will be harvesting them. Walking on, I pull a steamed bun out of my pocket and start eating it. Supplies being what they are, Tomorrow currently runs a rationing system, with ordinary residents receiving 1 unit of fresh water, 1 steamed bun, 2 blue heart potatoes daily, combat personnel receiving 2 units of fresh water and 6 buns or potatoes, and professionals like combat captains and helmsmen and mechanics and lookouts receiving more still. Of the 12 who rose with me, Dang Bin is helmsman. Old Jew is my deputy and also serves as combat captain. I have arranged the rest as combat personnel responsible for fighting outside and keeping order aboard. Old Jew is patrolling with a few of them right now, and I nod lightly to them and go back to my bun. In an apocalypse, a team you can trust is the precondition for developing it all. On the lower layer, I have gone a few steps when Dangbin's delighted voice comes out of the cockpit. He is telling Immu that he is amazing, and that setting up the autopilot program his way really is far easier. I walk in and find him standing at the control panel, thoroughly pleased with himself, with Immu beside him. So Yan is there as well, holding the back of the wheelchair and shrinking a little when she sees me, because she happened to overhear me say I would genuinely throw the pair of them off. I look at Immu with some surprise. Over these few days, he has not disappointed me once, handling tomorrow's repair work meticulously. What surprises me more is that he really can work the helm, familiar with the whole operating sequence and able to teach Dang Bin how to build driving programs. This one may turn into a great asset to tomorrow's development, and it would be a wonderful thing if his body were sound. Watching him, something like regret goes through me, because in these few days I have seen him cough blood more than once. The helm is a post that demands long hours and heavy mental work, and his health is far too poor. I have decided in the end not to make him helmsman and to pick and train somebody else aboard instead. That way he and Dang Bin can take turns and the pressure comes off the boy. An autopilot program helps, and to avoid a mishap, Dang Bin still has to stay in the cockpit the whole time it is running. In fact, since taking the helm, he has not left that room except to use the toilet, and he eats and sleeps in it. The new helmsman will naturally come from our own, because capable as the new arrivals look, I do not dare take that risk. So I call in the man I have picked and put Immu and Dang Bin on teaching him. The one who has been standing lookout also comes to me with a request. He would rather be combat personnel than sit the tower and wants to charge in alongside Old Jew. Because the day he watched the two of us cut down snake men with assault rifles, he was envious from up there. I agree, and tell him I will find a way to recruit a proper lookout as soon as I can. With those arrangements made, I bring up the panel, because a new round has refreshed. This time it has produced 1 common, 1 excellent, 2 rare, 1 outstanding, and 1 epic. The first 5 are laid out clearly, and the epic one is still turning over. I start reading fast. There is an iron ore vein 120 miles southwest, small, with an estimated 150 units in it, and that is common. In the lower district of Roland Fortress, a young man is about to be fired from the repair shop he works in, and he was once a gunner, and that is excellent. The Lord of the Conqueror currently needs at least 500 units of lava spider silk and will pay a high price, and that is rare. 28 miles due north there is a level 1 monster town of boarmen, 163 of them, with 4 cannons and 8 heavy machine guns. Also rare. In 1 minute, a thunder ore vein will refresh 37 miles due south, medium-sized with an estimated 482 units in it, and that is excellent. The sixth is still refreshing, and it is epic. I work them one at a time the way I always do. The first is a small iron ore vein a long way southwest. Short of ore as I am, it is not worth crossing 120 miles for 150 units, so I will almost certainly let it go. The second is a gunner sitting in Roland Fortress's lower district. And a gunner is exactly the talent I need most urgently. My shells are replenished so my cannons can go back into a fight. The problem is that I have no idea where Roland Fortress is. The third puts a new mobile city in front of me with its Lord's shopping list attached. Lava spider silk is a rare level 1 material dropped by the level 1 elite monster, called the lava spider. That is enormous, roughly the size of a table, and specializes in spraying scalding silk at whatever it wants dead. The fourth is a monster town 28 miles north. Monster towns are rare wasteland strongholds that generally sit on large stores of iron ore and fuel and food and fresh water, with better odds of producing level 1 items. That makes them the resource point lords most want to hit. I covet that fat piece of meat, and I am also frankly nervous of it, because tomorrow holds 24 people total and fewer cannons and machine guns than they do, and going at it now would be a disaster with steps. The fifth genuinely surprises me, a rare vein, and medium-sized. My heart jumps hard because finishing that vein makes me a small fortune, and then the anxiety arrives right behind it, because it refreshes in 1 minute and it is a full 37 miles off, and if a survival convoy or another mobile city stumbles onto it first, that is the end of it. I wave a hand and tell Dangbin to run south at maximum speed. Under normal conditions, a level 1 city tops out at 30 to 37 miles an hour, and upgraded components push that higher. Then I look forward at the epic entry still turning over and wonder what the content will be this time. An hour or so later we arrive and the thunder ore vein is sitting there intact, and I let a breath out. I stop everything aboard and put every pickaxe on the ground, and old Jew and the others are more excited than I am and are digging before the lift platform is properly settled. 2 or 3 hours of hard work later, the vein is finished and everyone comes back aboard carrying it, and I finally unwind. 483 units of thunder ore. The stuff is deep blue all the way through, and its surface flickers now and then with something like current running over it. My one regret is that this vein carried no thunder crystals with it. I plan to find somewhere to sell the batch and buy supplies with what it brings. Tomorrow has barely covered any distance when the lookout's voice comes down the speaking tube reporting a forest half a mile northeast, movement inside it, and what sounds like some big thing on the move. A forest and a big thing. I go still for a second, work out what that probably means, and run for the watchtower. Through the telescope, the forest is fiery red, so vivid it looks like it is actually burning, and I know what I am looking at immediately. Fire feather forest out of the intelligence, and I have blundered into it while chasing a thunder ore vein, which makes the big thing. A mountain of a shape crawls out of the trees, an enormous spider, deep red all over, with deep red patterns running across its body like magma moving, and 8 eyes as hot and bright as open furnaces. The wild boss, the lava spider queen. Behind her comes a large body of lava spiders and 4 elite captain-grade spider guardians. Every person on Tomorrow is alarmed, and every one of them stands there staring at her moving through that red forest, dumbstruck. I stare at her too, a genuine wild boss, and she drops a level 2 item. And Tomorrow's strength is nowhere near enough to challenge one. I pull my eyes off her, which takes real effort, and wave everyone away. We are going. Half an hour later I run into people, and it is a convoy, and the one leading it is Manhwa, whom I pulled out of a corpse tide. She rolls the window down and waves and says she did not expect to meet me again, that they have just finished an exploration and are heading home, that if I plan to buy supplies I can come to their fortress. Something turns over in me, because that is not a bad proposal at all. With a lord's daughter vouching for me, there should be no problem getting into Roland Fortress. I can sell this thunder ore there, buy supplies, and recruit that gunner out of the lower district. A fortress should be well stocked, and I might even be able to buy the frost ore and the frost crystal a frost cannon needs. 3 hours later, Tomorrow follows her convoy into Roland Fortress. The place sits in a mining area not far from a freshwater lake with large fields around it. What guards it is a row of enormous walls, better than 100 feet high, with rows of cannons and heavy machine guns mounted along them, and a good many armed guards walking the top. There are several small gates and one giant one in the middle. Looking at it, I cannot help being envious, because that is genuinely formidable. The guards see Tomorrow riding along with her convoy, evidently work out what is happening, and stand down. She parks, gets out, explains us, and the guards nod and open the giant gate to let us through. The first look inside puts me flat on my back. This is less a fortress than a mobile city that had its tires and tracks taken off and was parked here permanently. I stand there staring at it with my head full of questions. A calm voice behind me says this is probably a fortress faction mobile city. I turn and it is Mu. He adjusts his glasses and explains it. In this wasteland world, mobile cities fall into two factions, the Wandering faction and the Fortress faction. The Wandering faction is what it sounds like, cities that roam and gather supplies and treat the world as home, and they are the overwhelming majority. The Fortress faction is cities that gave up moving and dug in, usually after developing to a certain scale, choosing a resource-rich area and settling to multiply and thrive there. Their advantage over the Wandering faction is enormous, because a settled city is no longer bound by living space or land, so they can cultivate widely around themselves for crops and livestock. More food supports more people, and more people convert into more labor, which raises the fortress's strength again. Residents stop living in tiny rooms and build spacious houses to their own taste, some of them with yards. At the same level, a fortress usually holds more people than a city and lives considerably better. The disadvantage is just as obvious. Having given up movement, a fortress can only hold one patch of ground and can no longer travel to gather resources and grow. Most fortresses simply hold their original level and very few of them ever upgrade. So that is how it works, I say, nodding at it. If it were my call, I would take the Wandering faction every time. No fixed home, the world for a house, and a tight life every day, and at least every day's road is something to look forward to. You do not know what you will run into when you wake, or what you will gain, or what you will regret. With the Lord's daughter introducing us, our way through Roland Fortress is entirely unobstructed. Somewhere in there I notice a gap in the city wall, and she catches my confusion, and explains straight away. The Scarlet Hound has coveted Roland Fortress's population and resources for a long time, and has attacked several times, and that gap was blown open by its level 1 artillery. Her father does not appear himself and sends the butler to receive us instead. To thank me for saving his daughter, the Lord of Roland Fortress gives me a gift. Roland Fortress is open to tomorrow, which means I can trade and recruit freely inside it. I am delighted when I hear it, because that means tomorrow has found a safe harbor out here where it can stop and rest. He also lays on a meal for us, and there are vegetables on the table and also a small amount of fruit and meat. I start eating like an animal, because since transmigrating I have basically not eaten anything good and have lived on potatoes and steamed buns. Old Jew and the rest go at it exactly as hard as I do. Somewhere in the middle of it, I find myself wondering when tomorrow we'll have supplies like this. After dinner, she walks us toward the market, and I look the interior over as we go. Roland Fortress runs in two districts, upper and lower, with the lower holding small shops and processing plants, and the market in the upper being living and residential. By her account, it holds better than 2,000 people now, and it was originally a level 1 mobile city called Roland that settled here 10 years ago. Its scale now is dozens of times what it was as a city, and the internal space is extremely generous. Somewhere along the way, I find a mobile city. It is docked near the processing plant in the lower city, and its thugs are directing slaves and unloading materials gathered out in the wild to be hauled to the market. I take an interested look. The thing has an extremely imposing build, a rather rough and bold architectural style, and even a coat of red paint, which tells me its lord has put his own personality into the hull. It flies a flag too, flamboyant bright red with crossed knives and axes on it. Going by what I can see, there are 20 to 30 thugs or combat personnel aboard and about 50 residents and slaves, and it carries 4 cannons, 8 heavy machine guns. Appears to have upgraded its tracks and tires, and the firearms its combat personnel carry are level 1 submachine guns. What surprises me most is that it actually has a level 1 cannon, smooth and elegant and streamlined, with a muzzle far larger than an ordinary one. The panel gives it as a wind erosion cannon at item level 1. Its additional effect puts whatever it hits into a slowed state for a period, and it crafts at 300 units of level 1 wind erosion ore and 1 level 1 wind erosion crystal. The strength of that city is genuinely good, and I say so out loud. She catches where I am looking and introduces it immediately. This is the Conqueror, she says, an old partner of Roland Fortress. It comes in regularly to sell what it gathers in the wild, restock food and vegetables and fresh water, and get routine maintenance done. I ask, surprised, whether she really means the Conqueror, because that is the city out of the intelligence that urgently needs lava spider silk. I had not paid it much attention at the time and did not expect to walk into it here. She puts a finger out and points at a spot on the Conqueror's tracks and says that man standing there is Ro Jiam, the lord of it. I look and find a middle-aged man in his 40s, built like a bodybuilder, broad through the back, thick in the arms, wearing sunglasses. Do not let him fool anybody, she adds, because he looks like a hard man, and he is actually very easy to get on with. He likes to be at the front of everything, and his people back him for it. We reach the market talking, and compared to Primitive Town, it is clearly a livelier proposition. It is the size of a small town. It is packed with every kind of person. Scavengers, bounty hunters, fortress residents, survivors off outside convoys. What is on sale is just as varied: food and vegetables and fruit, iron ore and coal, furniture, weapons, firearms, and even level 1 items and level 1 blueprints. The noise and the crowding remind me of life in my hometown city, and my mood loosens a little. And right behind the loosening comes something melancholy. The first thing that catches Immu's eye is a small board hanging at the market entrance listing this week's material prices. Wood runs 2 crystal coins a unit and freshwater 3, while iron ore is 5, coal is 8, and fuel is 12. Rare vein ore runs 15 to 35 a unit, and a rare vein crystal runs 3 to 5,000 crystal coins apiece. I ask, a little surprised, whether rare vein ore is genuinely worth that much, and she nods. Then she learns I have 483 units of thunder ore and gasps and covers her mouth and asks whether I am genuinely that lucky. About then, the crowding tips the market into something chaotic, and she steps straight out and starts sorting the order of the place out systematically. I end up looking at her a few more times than I mean to. Early 20s, generous with people, efficient at work, without a trace of the pampering you would expect on a lord's child. And I find myself thinking well of her. Half an hour later, I have sold every unit of thunder ore at 25 crystal coins each. It took that long because nobody in the market could absorb the whole batch, so they bought a handful at a time, and the largest single purchase was 30 units. 12,075 crystal coins. I counted out, thoroughly content. Among the coins there are a good many crystal cards, which are also common currency here, with 1 card equal to 100 coins, and only elite grade monsters or better ever drop 1. Looking at the money in front of them, Old Jew and the others relax considerably. Then I wave a hand and tell them we are going shopping. First I buy 600 units of coal, and as it feeds in, tomorrow's energy climbs to 61%. Seeing that number, I let a breath out, because after all of it, the energy is finally back above the safety line. Out in the wild these past days, I have been permanently braced for the city to run dry and stop dead. Then I start working the level 1 items. Roland Fortress's market does carry them, and the quantity is relatively small, and any shopkeeper holding one puts it in the most prominent spot he owns. A level 1 bed, level 1 table and chair blueprints. A level 1 machete. I move through the market with my eyes going fast over what each shop has. For a mobile city lord, it is better to build than to buy. Rather than buying level 1 items, I would far rather buy level 1 blueprints and feed them into the workshop to unlock the project. After careful picking, I settle on 2 things. One is level 1 crop seed morning light wheat at 1,500 crystal coins, and the other is a level 1 off-road vehicle blueprint at 1,000. Morning light wheat is Roland Fortress's own level 1 crop, grows in 1 month, carries a 10% yield bonus, is sold from the Fortress's official shop mainly to residents of other towns, outside survival vehicle teams, and mobile city lords. The off-road vehicle blueprint is being sold by a bounty hunter living in the upper district, who says it dropped off an elite goblin he killed. Building one takes 200 units of iron ore and 10 units of auto parts. Auto parts can also be made in the workshop at 5 units of metal each, so the real cost of a vehicle is 250 units of iron ore. Its additional effect is fuel consumption reduced by 10%, which is genuinely practical, and I take it without a second of hesitation. Mobile cities usually run vehicle teams, whose purpose is reconnaissance and material searching, and when it suits, sudden attacks on resource points monsters are sitting on. Tomorrow's resources and manpower are nowhere near the point of fielding a vehicle team, and getting the blueprint in advance is necessary anyway. The bounty hunter counts his 10 crystal cards and walks off happy. I count what is left in my own purse. Coal took 4,800, and the 2 purchases just now took 2,500, leaving a little over 4,700. Then I spend 2,500 on 500 units of iron ore. It has to be said that level 1 iron ore is a genuinely practical resource, since it forges bullets and shells, upgrades city components, produces items, and can even be burned as emergency fuel when a city runs low. I did briefly want to convert every coin I own into ore. Thinking it through carefully, that is not necessary, mostly because I hold an intelligence system, and finding ore or mine out in the wild is comparatively easy for me, so 500 is enough. With the remaining 2,200 and change, I buy vegetables and fruit that store well, dried meat and dry rations like flour, and I also buy some ordinary furniture. The furniture is not for me, since the Lord's room is fully appointed already, and it is for the residents who have just joined. On top of that, I buy a few chickens and ducks and set aside a plot on the middle level to raise them. In a wasteland apocalypse, poultry costs a great deal more than it ever did. By the time it is all done, the crystal coins are very nearly gone. Then I try recruiting inside the fortress, and this time nobody is interested at all. Living conditions here are better than on any mobile city, safe and spacious, with no wandering the wild and no living braced every day. People reach for a comfortable life. It is not complicated. While we are moving the supplies, old Jew asks casually when we are leaving for the wild. I work my chin a moment and tell him we have basically finished what we came for, so we rest here tonight and depart in the morning. After that, I leave the market for the factory district, and since it is full of repair shops, I search a while. Finally, I find a young man squatting at the entrance of one. 23 or 24, glasses, somewhat scholarly looking, sitting with his chin in his hands looking thoroughly unhappy. Something turns over in me, because this is presumably the one out of the intelligence who was fired. Some conversation gets me his name, Young Moon. He was an apprentice at this shop and was let go in under 2 months. He is somewhat surprised to learn I am a mobile city lord, and when he learns what I want, he simply stops. He says he is not really a gunner, and rubs the back of his neck, embarrassed. As it turns out, he did serve as an intern gunner for Roland Fortress a few years ago and was laid off after a few months. I go still, and then wave it off and tell him it is nothing. Given what tomorrow can currently offer, landing an experienced gunner is not something I can count on, and landing one who has interned is already good. More importantly, a gunner trained for nothing develops a genuine sense of belonging to his city. He asks cautiously whether it really is nothing, and says that out in the wild the performance of artillery matters enormously to his city, and he is afraid he will not perform when it counts. I smile and clap his shoulder and tell him not to worry about it. Then something else occurs to me and I ask why he is willing to go to a mobile city at all. He thinks about it and says that honestly life in the fortress is not bad, that he wakes up without the fear you carry in the wild, and the food and drink are very good. He rubs the back of his neck again, embarrassed, and says that he thinks a young person should go out and see the world. I nod at that. Then I tell him he needs to hear something first, which is that tomorrow can currently supply very little fresh water daily, and the food is potatoes and steamed buns. He smiles and waves it off and says it is nothing. On the way back with him, I see something I did not expect. The giant gate rolls open and a mobile city drives in, and it is Azure, which I traded with. Like the Conqueror, it starts unloading supplies for market the moment it is through, and starts its repair and troubleshooting work as well. I am a little surprised, since I had not expected Azure to also be a Roland Fortress partner, so I walk over and greet Li Jin. He says my Falcon assault rifles are genuinely easy to use, and killing monsters has become very easy. I nod and then sigh with something melancholy behind it, because on the way here I had entertained the idea of custom processing Falcons for Roland Fortress. Roland Fortress already has level 1 firearms of its own. Back aboard, I have old Ju arrange a room for Youngmoon and pull a few pieces out of the newly bought furniture to put in it. As the new gunner, he gets the same treatment as Dang Bin and Im Mu, since he is technical talent. When old Ju learns that this is the new gunner, he claps the man's shoulder in surprise and then hugs him tightly, which leaves Youngmoon somewhat at a loss. With that arranged, I come to tomorrow's railing and look out at the Conqueror and Azure sitting in the fortress. Only somewhere neutral like this could 3 mobile cities sit peacefully in one place. And while I am looking at them, I start turning over whether to sell them the news of the Lava Spider Queen and Firefeather Forest. Thinking about it harder, Azure has only just recovered from the failed attack on Grossmine, and will not take a risk that size. The Conqueror is powerful, and beating a wild boss would still be a considerable problem for it. Then a voice behind me asks whether I am thinking about whether to sell the news of that wild boss. I turn and it is Im Mu, and I tell him that if he has any good ideas, he's welcome to share them. He nods and signals So Yun behind him to push him closer. Wild bosses drop abundant resources, he says, and most importantly, they drop a level 2 item, which is a significant improvement for a level 1 city. Correspondingly, a level 1 city like Tomorrow, which has only just started, cannot challenge one. Then he looks at the 2 cities in front of us and asks what happens if we unite those as well, and whether the odds do not go up a great deal. We hold the information on this wild boss and we are the ones initiating the alliance, he says, so we control the initiative and we control the division of the spoils. My eyes light up at that, because he has genuinely reminded me of something. For Azure's Lord, a damaged city that originally lacks the strength to challenge a wild boss, a 3-city alliance is an opportunity, so he will very likely agree. As for the Conqueror's Lord, I happen to know he urgently needs lava spider silk, so he is very likely to agree too. And what I want out of it is the level 2 item and nothing else. The rest can go between the 2 of them. Half an hour later, the 3 of us meet. When Li Jin and Ro Guillaume hear that the Lava Spider Queen has appeared as a wild boss, they are startled first, and then something fervent comes into both faces, since every lord alive knows what a wild boss drops. Then I lay out what I want. The 3 cities ally and hit the Lava Spider Queen together. Tomorrow takes only the level 2 item it drops, and the rest of the spoils split between the Conqueror and Azure. Both of their mouths twitch at that. Only take the level 2 item said as lightly as I said it, and every man in that room knows exactly what a level 2 item is worth to a level 1 city. And underneath the twitching they both sigh internally, because Tomorrow holds the information on the wild boss, and that is the advantage. Li Jin thinks about it and is first to nod. Rojiam hesitates. His conqueror is far stronger than Azure or Tomorrow, and allying means he contributes more and works harder, and the best of the spoils still walks away in somebody else's hands, which is genuinely unpleasant. And he currently and urgently needs lava spider silk for a level 1 item, and lava spiders and spider guardians and the queen herself all drop the stuff in quantity. Taking her down might gather the full 500 units in one afternoon. In the end, he nods too. I smile a little. The three parties settle it. Tomorrow takes the level 2 item. Because the Conqueror is stronger than Azure, the remaining spoils split 60-40, and every unit of lava spider silk that drops goes to the Conqueror. On the fighting, since only the Conqueror carries level 1 artillery, it is the main attacker against the Queen, while Azure and Tomorrow handle the swarm of lava spiders and the spider guardians. And so that everybody keeps their word, the three parties exchange hostages until the battle is over. Rojiam hands over his son. I hand over my deputy old Jew. Li Jin hands over the physician who pulled him back from death, who turns out to be his wife. I tell them I had originally planned to set off in the morning, and that seeing their cities are still under inspection. Both of them wave that away and say it is no problem and they can rush the work tonight, with that same fervent light in their eyes, because this is a wild boss and they have not caught one in years. Early morning, with a heavy rumble, the massive gates of Roland Fortress swing open, and Tomorrow starts out toward the wild with the Conqueror and Azure close behind. I stand at the railing looking toward Firefeather Forest, because before long a major battle breaks out there, and I hope this goes smoothly. Aboard, everyone is nervously getting ready. When the news went round that 3 mobile cities had allied to attack a wild boss, every person stopped where they stood. Along with the shock came nerves and fear and excitement all at once. At the artillery, the newly appointed young Mun is calibrating, raising his thumb now and then to measure distance, because he needs to get himself into the zone before the shooting starts. There is movement beside me and I turn to find Immu. He has heard the terms of the agreement, and he nods and adjusts his glasses gently and says the terms of the trade are acceptable, and that only a mutually beneficial alliance lasts. The 3 cities depart, and up in the upper district of Roland Fortress, a man leans back on a sickbed and watches them go through the window without saying anything. A middle-aged man, pale and weak in the face, thin in the body, covering his mouth to cough now and then. The Lord of Roland Fortress. None of us knows that the reason he did not receive us personally is that he is already too ill to leave that bed. And Roland Fortress is nowhere near as impregnable as it looks. After years of mining, its mining area is very nearly exhausted, and the freshwater lake is very nearly used up. Outside, the Scarlet Hound is circling as a formidable enemy. Inside, there is factional infighting. The fortress splits mainly 2 ways. The radical faction holds that resources are nearly gone and cannot support this many people, so Roland Fortress should revert to being a mobile city and set out again to find more. Since current resources would only carry 500 at most, they would select 500 out of the fortress and abandon everybody else. The conservative faction holds that this is too cruel and too ruthless, that quite apart from how you would fairly select anybody, it would very likely detonate the conflict early. That current resources still last a while, and a solution may yet be found. The reason it has not erupted is that the Lord's prestige still holds both sides down, and his time is genuinely running out. He watches the 3 cities quietly, stroking his forehead now and then, as if working at something. With a soft sound, the door opens and the butler comes in carrying a tray of medicine and says it is time for it. Looking at the Lord he has served better than a decade, his eyes gentle, he remarks that the Lord always watches like this whenever a mobile city leaves. The Lord coughs a few times and says slowly to the man he calls Old Lee that he often wonders, if the Roland had not become a fortress back then, would it have gone further by now? At the destination, I put a hand up to my own face in the cockpit and take a long breath. Everyone aboard is in position, and with the combat captain handed over as a hostage, I am commanding Tomorrow's fighting myself. As the 3 cities slowly close on the forest, the lava spider queen has already gone tense and is putting out wary hissing. The lava spiders and spider guardians around her surge like a tide. On my order, Tomorrow sounds 3 long blasts. What 3 long blasts mean is that the attack begins. Every gun on all 3 cities fires at once, and the queen disappears inside an explosion. Young Mun's mouth curves, and he says that was excellent and that we hit her. And for all his delight, his hands are trembling slightly. As Tomorrow's new gunner, he assumed his first battle would be a monster-held mine or a forest, and he never expected it to be a wild boss. Our 2 cannons are worked by him and 1 combatant, and before firing, he calculated wind and distance and humidity in a state of open nerves. A few seconds later, the smile goes off his face entirely. When the smoke clears, the lava spiders and the spider guardians have taken minimal casualties and the queen is very nearly untouched. My own expression goes solemn, and honestly this is inside what I expected, because a round of ordinary artillery was never going to produce results here, and at best provide suppressing fire. These are elite captain and wild boss grade creatures, and doing genuine damage takes level 1 firearms, level 1 heavy machine guns, or level 1 artillery. Enraged by the shelling, the swarm surges forward like water. 1,000 yards, 900, 800, and the gap closes fast. Then the queen, out at the front of the charge, bends her legs and leaps, and that massive body sweeps through the air and covers better than 1,600 feet in one jump. Nobody expected that. She lands under 1,000 feet from us, and every person aboard can see those ferocious compound eyes clearly. Countless machine gun rounds and shells land on her in an instant and produce very nearly nothing, and she keeps advancing through the barrage with the remaining distance shrinking. Then the Conqueror's level 1 artillery fires. A violent explosion goes up on her, and one of her lateral limbs is blown clean off, and her movement turns sluggish at the same moment. So that is what level 1 artillery does. Standing there, I am surprised and relieved and thoroughly envious all at once, because out of the firepower of 3 mobile cities, only that one gun can suppress her. Li Jin is feeling exactly the same thing on his own deck. Both of us genuinely want a level 1 cannon. Then she does something none of us saw coming. She sprays silk like cannon fire and rapidly binds the wheels and tracks of all 3 cities. The turn stuns everybody, and the swarm surges in behind it in dense numbers. Open fire, I roar, all of it on the swarm. Tomorrow throws everything it has into the spiders, and Azure opens up alongside us. Because clearing the swarm is the job of both cities, while the queen belongs to the Conqueror and its level 1 gun. At the same time, the mechanical arms on all 3 cities come up and start cutting the silk off the wheels and tracks. Faster, Dangbin is saying in the cockpit, sweating hard, working the mechanical arm. Out on the deck, I lead everyone with Falcon assault rifles and pour fire into the swarm. As a level 1 rifle, the Falcon is lethal far past ordinary heavy machine guns and ordinary artillery, and the lava spiders that reach the front go down in moments. Every person aboard is pulling a trigger without stopping. Under the cover of the tide, several elite Captain Spider Guardians come forward as well, bodies the size of trucks, genuinely terrifying. One of them leaps and lands directly on Azure's deck and spits lava like venom at a cannon, and the gunner, who does not move in time, melts away along with the gun. That scene goes through me like cold water. Fortunately, Azure's combat personnel react fast and kill it with heavy fire, and the weapon they do it with is precisely the Falcon assault rifle I traded them. Then Dangbin shouts something joyful, and Tomorrow has power again and can move. Of the 3 cities, we have the least silk on our treads and tires. I do not order a retreat, because Azure still cannot move and I am not leaving a teammate on the ground. Over on the other side, the Conqueror is in a genuine fight with the Queen. She has identified the city in front of her as the primary enemy, and has started spraying silk without restraint. By now, the whole of the Conqueror is coated in it, and even the mechanical arms meant to clear it are firmly bound. Several of its cannons and heavy machine guns are webbed and cannot fire, and a good many of its combat personnel are caught in it and cannot move. Fortunately, its level 1 cannon is still firing continuously, and the Queen's body is badly wounded in multiple places, and her movement has slowed considerably. Hope goes through me all at once. Hold on. We can win this. Every one of the 3 cities is giving everything now, because in a situation this tight, nobody dares be selfish, and both bullets and shells come out of every side as though they cost nothing. After some length of time I could not measure, the tide in front of us is finally cleared, and the moment Tomorrow and Azure break loose, we both go to support the Conqueror. Watching that, the stone that has been hanging in Rojiam finally drops, and he lets out a long breath, and on his own deck his gunner has a bitter face and reports that they have 3 shells left for the level 1 cannon. His face goes dark instantly. A level 1 cannon shells cannot be made from level 1 iron ore, and instead want level 1 wind erosion ore, at 10 units of ore and 1 of gunpowder per shell. Wind erosion ore is rare and difficult to find and sometimes cannot be bought at any price. The Conqueror only ever held 11 of those shells. This time he thinks, we have taken an enormous loss. Then he sighs and gives the order not to save them, to fire all 3, because taking down the wild boss is what matters, and nobody is going to fumble this at the last minute. Every heavy machine gun and every cannon on all 3 cities fires at once, along with every person on every deck holding a level 1 firearm. A sky full of firepower closes over the Queen. Badly wounded as she is, she still stubbornly stands under 3 mobile cities for several minutes. It is not until the Conqueror puts its last wind erosion shell into her that she lets out one mournful cry and goes down. All 3 of us breathe out at the same moment, and behind the relief there is a flicker of something shaken in every set of eyes. Without any one of the 3, this does not happen. After that fight, we all have a clear and personal understanding of what a wild boss is. The rumor was accurate. A fully staffed level 1 mobile city genuinely has under a 30% chance against 1. The super jump, the silk, the tide guarding her body, and no single level 1 city stands up to that. From the opening of the battle until now, every person's nerves have been stretched to the limit. Because losing means dying along with your city, and that is simply what a fight in the wild is. Once everybody has come down off it, we all look at her corpse, because it is time to open the spoils. 4,874 crystal coins, 1,256 units of level 1 iron ore, 976 of level 1 fuel, 325 units of lava spider silk, a level 1 city component called molten shell, and a level 1 weapon called lava spider fang. Standing in front of that mountain, everybody simply stops. They knew wild boss drops were abundant, and none of them expected this much. Since the crystal coins in coal and iron ore and fuel alone would take an unknowable stretch of time to gather out in the wild, the molten shell is city armor that looks like flowing magma with an effective defense increased by 10%, which makes it an excellent defensive component. The level 1 weapon looks extremely good and carries an attached effect of dealing burning damage to whatever it hits. All three of us look at those two with some envy. And finally, there is the level 2 item. The type of a level 2 drop is completely random and could be level 2 crop seed, level 2 firearms, level 2 city components, or even level 2 heavy machine guns, or level 2 cannons. In fact, at the moment the queen died, Li Jin and Rojian both looked at me with complicated expressions. Because as allies, they simultaneously feared me getting shortchanged and feared me walking off with a fortune. And I look at the item with the eyes of a starving man. In appearance, it resembles a radio, its casing faintly luminous. The panel calls it City Camouflage at item level 2. Its attached effect throws a camouflage over the entire mobile city and blends it completely into the surrounding environment. A note adds that activating it consumes 5% energy and maintaining it consumes 6% an hour after that. What a good item, both of them are thinking. Thoroughly envious. I thank them both, shake their hands one at a time, and take the level 2 item without ceremony. Under the original agreement, it is mine and the rest of the loot has nothing to do with me. As the strongest party in the alliance and the one who contributed most in the fighting, Rojiam is a little unwilling about watching the best of it walk off with somebody else. The lava spider silk goes some way toward covering the regret. Lava spiders have a chance of dropping 1 to 3 units of silk each. Spider guardians drop 10 to 20, and the queen dropped a full 325. 536 units in total. Not bad at all, he says, nodding at it. I ask him, curious, what he wants that much lava spider silk for, and Li Jin turns the same curious look on him. He thinks about it and then produces a blueprint. It is a level 1 city component called Lava Tread at item level 1. Its attached effects increase a mobile city's grip by 10% and grant the city climbing ability up to a maximum angle of 30 degrees. It crafts at 500 units of lava spider silk and 100 units of iron ore. He says he got it attacking a monster town. That genuinely is a good component, I think, nodding to myself. Compared to the level 1 treads you upgrade to conventionally in the workshop, lava treads work harder and hand the city climbing on top. 30 degrees is already a considerable slope. For a second I can see it, a mobile city the size of a small mountain going nimbly up through hill country on the treads under its chassis. Per the earlier agreement, the remaining spoils split 6 to 4 between the Conqueror and Azure. The iron ore and crystal coins divide without argument, and there is some disagreement over the molten shell. Since the Conqueror is strongest and contributed most, Rojiam has more say. After negotiating, the Conqueror takes the component and Azure receives 300 units of iron ore and 300 of coal as compensation. The compensation is substantial and Legion cannot help feeling some regret anyway, since Azure has only just regrouped and urgently needs strength. Frankly, Azure's position in this alliance was the worst of the three, since Tomorrow owned the Wild Boss information and initiated the alliance and the Conqueror was the strongest party. Overall, he still profited and gained a great deal of resources. The one thing that genuinely pains him is that Azure lost a gunner in the fighting, an old member who had been with that city a long time, and now they have to train another. After the division, Rogio makes a request. Because he single-handedly absorbed the queen through the battle, his conqueror is completely bound in silk and cannot move an inch, and needs clearing. Out in the wild, an immobile city is very dangerous, so he asks Azure and Tomorrow to escort him while the work goes on. Li Jin and I agree without hesitation, because after a fight like that, the three of us have accumulated something like camaraderie. While he is thanking us, he glances at the falcon in my hands and says my level 1 firearm is good, and asks whether I could process some for him as well. His conqueror does carry level 1 firearms, and they are submachine guns, which are not as lethal as assault rifles. I nod, and out of goodwill, I do not charge a processing fee this time. Back aboard, I hand the city camouflage to Immu for installation and then take stock of what the fight cost us. A great many lava spiders got onto our deck during it, including a spider guardian. Multiple sections of deck and various parts are damaged, and we lost nobody, though several combat personnel are wounded. As for shells and machine gun rounds and pistol rounds and falcon ammunition, from the opening of the battle all of it went out as though it were free. Roughly figured, this fight burned better than 400 units of iron ore. I click my tongue at the number because the consumption of war is genuinely high, and the old line about one roar of a cannon costing a fortune turns out to be simple arithmetic. Somewhere in there I look at the queen's corpse and fall into thinking. A wild boss drops so abundantly that it can satisfy 3 mobile cities at once, and if tomorrow had taken her alone we would be rich beyond anything. Then I remember the fight I just came out of, and shake my head gently and put the thought away. Let us not be that greedy. Better than an hour later, the conqueror finishes clearing the silk and has power again. The 3 parties exchange hostages back, say their goodbyes, and set off in 3 different directions. Out in the wild, mobile cities generally have no intention of traveling together, and the reason is simple. Because the resources you find out here are limited, and 2 cities together already cannot share them, never mind 3. I open the panel and find the epic entry is refreshed, and its content is a census. As of now, it tells me, the Wasteland area holds 119 level 1 mobile cities and 3 level 2 ones. It holds 16 level 1 fortresses, 152 survivor towns, 63 survival convoys, and 421 survival squads. Total human population, 173,531. An epic entry turns out to be this kind of content, and while I am still astonished at it, something delighted goes through me, because that is genuinely good intelligence. I now have a clear and immediate picture of the entire Wasteland area. I had not expected 119 level 1 cities out here, and I certainly had not expected 3 level 2 ones. What surprises me more is that the survivor population runs to 170,000, which is well past my estimate. And behind the surprise comes the other thing. The entire Wasteland area is destroyed in 3 months, and I find myself wondering how many of those people are still alive at the end of it. I arrange the watch and go back to my room and sleep, and when I wake it is evening, the sky fully dark, our searchlights already on. Walking out, I remember something and open the panel, and the cooldown is finished. Time to the next refresh reads 15 hours, 32 minutes, 52 seconds, and the quantity reads 5. I shake my head gently at it. Under a day means the value will certainly not be high, and this will all be small change. It is night, so most people aboard have gone to rest with only a few combat personnel on watch, and the lookouts have come down. Freshly awake and full of energy, I decide to wander the city. Then I hear a faint roar somewhere off in the dark. That sound is a mobile city. The next second, a searchlight lands on Tomorrow. I go rigid and turn to look at where it came from, and by the silhouette it is very clearly a city. I shout for Dang Bin to put our searchlight on it, and then I run for the watchtower. Inside, I get the binoculars up fast and look. On its flag there is a fanged hound, entirely scarlet, drawn perfectly clearly. I know immediately. The Scarlet Hound. And at the same moment it sounds its whistle. Too short, too long, which means you are now the prey. After one roar, it starts accelerating after us, and several sharp whistles later, shells are landing around Tomorrow and going up in violent explosions. Most of the people aboard are woken by it and are up and gathering with weapons in their hands. Old Jew's voice comes over the megaphone asking whether we should prepare to counterattack. I think it through carefully and shake my head fast. No, we cannot fight it. Have Dang Bin accelerate and open the distance, and then activate the city camouflage. I am extremely clear about what the Scarlet Hound is. 96 combat personnel, 4 vehicle teams, 8 ordinary cannons, 14 ordinary heavy machine guns, better than 120 assorted firearms, and 2 level 1 cannons, and I watched what 1 level 1 cannon does not very long ago at all. A dull whistle comes down and a shell bursts not far off our left side, flame going straight up, and the shockwave sweeps the whole city and actually makes it tremble. My expression shifts slightly, because that power is a level 1 cannon and nothing else. And a head-on hit on Tomorrow does not bear thinking about. Under a series of moves from Dang Bin, we gradually build speed with the Scarlet Hound close behind, and the 2 cities open a chase across the Wasteland area. It fires repeatedly during it and the shells come very close. Then an idea arrives. I tell Dang Bin to memorize the route ahead clearly and plan it out, and then kill every light on the city. A few seconds later, every lamp aboard goes out. One hard turn and we are gone from under the Scarlet Hound's searchlights. A few minutes later, it has completely lost us. It sweeps the surroundings continuously with its lights and never finds a trace of us. This predatory city is genuinely stubborn about it, and it even slows to a stop and puts out 4 vehicle teams to search in every direction, because it cannot accept that a target this juicy walked out from under its nose. About half an hour later, the vehicle teams come back from every direction with nothing to report, and having recovered them, the Scarlet Hound has no choice but to restart and pull slowly away. It is finally gone. I let a breath out. Tomorrow has blended completely into the scenery of the Wasteland area by now, and it is inside 2/3 of a mile of the Scarlet Hound. In fact, when one of those vehicle teams came back, it very nearly drove into us. For safety, I do not shut the camouflage down until half an hour after the Scarlet Hound has left. Thanks to that level 2 item, and I mean that sincerely, tomorrow would have been finished tonight. It has to be said that this item is incredibly useful, whether for a surprise attack or an escape. If it has a drawback, it is the energy. From instantaneous activation through 1 hour of running, it has eaten a full 11%, which is enough to carry this city 2 days. No wonder every level 1 city is so fanatical about wild bosses, I mutter, because everybody wants the level 2 item it drops. A new day arrives fast, and the people aboard start their daily work. Mu takes several men and starts inspecting the city top to bottom, and Old Jew patrols with a few companions. I am standing by the fields because the blue heart potatoes have matured today and are ready to harvest, with several residents busy pulling them. I pick one up and look at it. A blue heart potato runs about the size of an ordinary potato with light blue skin and light blue flesh, and I take a bite out of it and find it faintly sweet. This harvest comes to 1,563 units of blue heart potato. Once it is in, I have everyone sow a new round and also plant the morning light wheat we just bought. The wheat takes longer, wanting a full month, and against ordinary crops that is still very fast. Once it matures, tomorrow can supply flour, which means biscuits and bread and steamed buns and noodles, which effectively means tomorrow's food supply is self-sufficient. And I work my chin and shake my head slightly anyway, because the supply is still far too narrow, being wheat and potatoes and nothing else. I plan to buy more level 1 crops and get some variety onto the table. And when this city can afford it, I want fruit growing and fish being raised as well. Incidentally, I did put the question to the Conqueror and Azure about trading our respective level 1 crops. It turned out everybody's level 1 crop is the same morning light wheat sold at Roland Fortress. An ordinary level 1 crop generally runs 500 to 1,000 crystal coins, and morning light wheat costs significantly more because it is a staple and feeds more people than vegetables or fruit do. Both of them were interested in our blue heart potato and wanted to buy it. Potatoes are rich in starch and protein and are genuinely filling. Since we had just planted every seed we owned, I could not meet either of them, so I promised to sell them a portion of the seed the next time we meet. In the evening, a new round refreshes. 9 miles southwest, there is a survivor vehicle team resting temporarily. 17 people, currently well supplied, with no level 1 blueprints and no level 1 weapons, and that is normal. The western part of the Wasteland area is a level 1 area called the Large Basin area, and traveling there takes 1 month, and that is excellent. After many days of pursuit, the level 1 Mobile City Pioneers successfully defeated the 2 level 1 cities hunting it and annexed their populations, the resources, and every project in their production workshops. Also excellent. Roland Fortress is currently riddled with contradictions, and with resources nearly exhausted, the radical faction has decided to consolidate everything, abandon 3/4 of the fortress population, and revert Roland Fortress to a mobile city, while the conservative faction firmly opposes it and insists a way out will be found. The Lord's prestige is high enough to hold both sides down, and his illness is too severe and he can barely leave his bed, which rates rare. And in the morning, a spore town will appear southeast of the Rotting Land, a neutral monster town where any survivor can interact with the residents and obtain its unique level 1 items. Also rare. I read through them fast. This round names no mines and no forests, and the sheer quantity of information in it is surprising. I analyze them one at a time as usual. The first is a survivor convoy 9 miles out, and set against a mobile city the size of tomorrow. A convoy's resources are genuinely insignificant. The difference between the two is a whale against small fish and shrimp. The convoy also carries no level 1 blueprints and no level 1 weapons and nothing else I want, so I glance at it and move past it. The second is very interesting. West of the Wasteland area is the level 1 Large Basin area, 1 month of travel away. That is the second region I've learned about after the Eternal Night Zone. Overall, I have no plans to go there, since developing inside the Wasteland area is sufficient for development, and there is no reason to walk into another level 1 area, and it costs a month to reach. My primary target remains the Eternal Night Zone, and the Basin area at best is a fallback. The third surprises me, because it puts a new level 1 mobile city in front of me, and that city fought 2 at once and won. Out in the wild, a 1-on-1 between cities is already savage, and a 1-on-2 is a flat disadvantage, since it means the other side has double your artillery and heavy machine guns and double the convoys to harass you with. And the Pioneer actually won, which means that city has an excellent lord, outstanding combat personnel, and precise coordination. There really are monsters out here. The Scarlet Hound with 2 level 1 cannons and nearly 100 combat personnel had already flattened me, and now here is a Pioneer as well. And I am envious on top of it, because having swallowed 2 cities whole, that level 1 city's strength is about to go vertical. The fourth is Roland Fortress, and I am somewhat surprised by it, since I had not expected the place to be so much less monolithic than it looked, with that much conflict inside it. The fifth catches me properly, a neutral monster town, appearing in the Rotting Land. The dog-headed caravan already gave me a taste of what that kind of opportunity pays, so I set tomorrow's destination for the rotting land immediately. On my way to the cockpit to give the order, my eye falls back on the first entry, and a new idea arrives. That convoy may not be able to give me what I need, and I can sell them things. I have Falcon assault rifles, and a level 1 weapon is extremely popular. Mine made up, I order us southwest. When they see a mobile city bearing down on them, the convoy is dumbfounded. They put their food down where they are sitting by the fire and fall back to their vehicles fast. Then tomorrow sounds 2 long and 1 short. Their leader stops at the sound and says skeptically that it means the other side wants to talk and that they should see what it wants. A few minutes later, both sides meet. Looking them over, I find 4 off-road vehicles, 2 buses, and 2 trucks, which is a considerable size for a convoy. Then I show them the Falcon assault rifle I brought. Every set of eyes on that convoy lights up, because for them, a level 1 firearm is the most scarce and valuable thing there is. They do not currently hold many crystal coins, and their trucks are carrying a full 700 and change units of iron ore, 300 and change of coal, 100 and change of fuel, gathered not long ago and originally intended for sale in a town. After some bargaining, I process 6 Falcon assault rifles for them at 50 units of iron ore per rifle, and process the ammunition free. Back and forth, I clear 300 units of iron ore off the deal without much effort. Then I plan to sell them blue heart potato seed as well, since after the harvest I have already produced better than a dozen bags of seed by cutting the potatoes into pieces. Their leader shakes his head and refuses. I am puzzled for a second and then understand. Unlike mobile cities, convoys have no fields to grow anything in, and their main food source is trading in towns. For a convoy, 2 things matter above everything, which are fuel to keep moving out here and weapons that actually kill monsters. Out in the wasteland, convoys and fortresses and mobile cities and survivor squads and bounty hunters all have their own way of staying alive. The deal closes and both sides depart. Partway along, I pass the freshwater lake marked on the map and top off the water tower. By noon the next day, tomorrow reaches the rotting land, and the rotting land is far larger than I had imagined. After searching the southwest a while, I finally find Spore Town. The town sits in a depression lit by fluorescent ferns. Its houses are giant mushrooms hollowed out through the middle, and the ground is covered in an elastic net of fungus. Its residents are mushroom people of varying colors and shapes, currently busy with their own work. Then I see the 2 behemoths parked beside it, and my stomach drops, because those are clearly 2 level 1 mobile cities, and somebody has beaten me here. They are parked on opposite sides of the town and do not appear to be allies. I mutter that I should go and have a look first. The public notice board at the town entrance tells us several things. First, Spore Town will only be open 3 days, and after that all communication with the outside stops. Second, as a neutral monster town, no faction may fight within 2/3 of a mile of it, and any party that violates that becomes an enemy of every resident. Additionally, Spore Town and the ant people holding the rotting land are hostile to each other. Third, the Spore Town official will open a series of valuable items for purchase, and buying anything requires accumulated contribution points. The board lists how points accrue. Killing an ordinary ant person pays 5, an elite pays 20, an elite captain pays 100, and a wild boss ant person pays 2,000. Capturing a stronghold pays 50, capturing an ant people held mine or forest or quarry pays 200, and capturing an ant people town pays 500. The list runs on from there. Having read the board carefully, I take Old Jew and the others toward the center of town, and a few minutes on the Spore Town official appears. It is a tall red mushroom person in a suit, walking elegantly with a quill pen pinned to its chest. It welcomes us to Spore Town and says it hopes we can make outstanding contributions to it, and that of course it will not treat us unfairly either. Then it displays what is available for exchange, and everyone standing there simply stops. A level 1 crop, sun apple tree seed at 1,000 contribution points, quantity 1. A level 1 city component, mushroom wheel design blueprint at 700, quantity 1. A level 1 city component, spore armor design blueprint at 900, quantity 1. A level 1 city component, spore armor design blueprint at 900, quantity 1. A level 1 city component, mycelial track design blueprint at 500, quantity 1. A level 1 firearm, the spore submachine gun at 600, quantity 1. Level 1 frost ore at 10 points a unit, quantity 450. A level 1 frost crystal at 2,000 points, quantity 1. And a level 2 city component, the repair mechanical arm at 8,000 points, quantity 1. On top of that, it sells blueprints for ordinary things like electric fans and motorcycles, and robotic vacuum cleaners, priced from 50 to 200 points. Food and drink like spore biscuits and mushroom stew and Spore Town's own honey brew. Iron ore and coal and fuel are for sale as well at 1 to 5 points a unit, up to 1,000 units each. I stare at that column. Spore armor, mushroom wheels, level 1 rocket launchers, and every one of those is genuinely good. What I had not expected was frost ore and a frost crystal sitting right there, which are exactly the resources I urgently need to build the frost cannon. And what I find least believable is that there is a level 2 item on the list. The repair mechanical arm can inspect a mobile city fully automatically and carries an additional 15% kinetic energy. When it repairs, it consumes only iron ore, so owning it is equivalent to indirectly owning a professional team of mechanics. It is not a blueprint either. It is a finished product, which means a lord does not have to go collect resources to build it, and can simply gather the points and use it. And I frown at it even so. For a level 1 city, the most useful level 2 items are heavy machine guns, artillery, city armor, or level 2 vehicles. Good as a repair arm is, it falls a little short of that. The official produces a commission badge and hands it to me, and whenever my team kills ant people or takes strongholds out in the wild, the badge tallies the points automatically. Taking it, I glance at the other 2 lords, and both of them are staring hard at the level 2 arm, very obviously wanting it. I think about it and make my decision. Rather than grinding myself down against 2 rivals racing for 8,000 points, I would rather prioritize the resources that let me build level 1 artillery. Take level 1 crops and level 1 city armor and the level 1 rocket launcher besides. Level 1 artillery is a tremendous boost to a mobile city. The highest priority is that frost crystal, because a frost ore vein does not necessarily come with a crystal in it. And even having decided, I still throw one reluctant look back at that mechanical arm, because a level 2 item is rare and hard to come by, and the more of them a level 1 city holds, the larger its advantage out here. Then I call an emergency mobilization aboard. Out of 25 people, excluding 2 helmsmen, Mu, his friend's sister, and the lookout, everybody else is called up, wounded included. Every unit of iron ore accumulated aboard goes into bullets and shells, with Falcon assault rifle ammunition getting the largest share. Including myself, 20 people split into 3 shifts and start hunting ant people across the rotting land at speed. Before long, I have a group of them in sight. They run roughly human-sized, with sharp limbs and tall frames and hard carapaces, and this group is resting around a campfire. I wave a hand and a shell comes down whistling and bursts among them, and being ordinary, it does limited damage to a level 1 monster, and leaves them only lightly hurt. Then one passive falcon fire and the ant people simply stop existing. Tomorrow rolls over their fire and accelerates on. In the evening we come back to Spore Town. Up on the tower I put my gun down and wipe my forehead, thoroughly used up. Since morning I have led the team in a frantic sweep of ant people and their small strongholds within several miles of the town, spinning like a top that never quite falls over. As of now, I have accumulated 3,080 contribution points, and I immediately exchange for the Frost Crystal and the level 1 rocket launcher design blueprint. While I am at it, I take a quiet look around Spore Town and fall into thinking. There are so many good things here that tomorrow alone cannot consume the resources, and if I could successfully raid this place. That said, Spore Town's armed strength should not be underestimated at all. It holds a full 500 mushroom-person residents, every one of them starting at elite grade with elite captains among them, all carrying level 1 weapons. The town also mounts level 1 heavy machine guns and level 1 artillery, which tells you plainly that raiding it costs a heavy price, or that you bring strength enough to make the price affordable. Forget it, I say, scratching the back of my neck. I will accumulate points honestly. A new day comes up and I am awake and reaching for the falcon beside my bed. Yesterday's haul was not much, only 350 points, and there are 2 reasons for it. First, every ant person and every stronghold within dozens of miles of Spore Town has been swept clean by 3 mobile cities. The only option now is going deeper into the rotting land, which costs more time and more effort. Second, fewer ant people appear at night, and a mobile city at night has searchlights and nothing else, which makes finding them hard. Getting up, I bring the panel for a quick look and the cooldown has just reset. Time to the next refresh reads 4 days, 23 hours, and 55 seconds, and the quantity reads 7. I glance at it and close it, because right now all I want is to kill monsters and clear strongholds and pile up points. For the people of tomorrow, spotting a group of ant people has started to feel like finding money lying in the road, and they swarm whatever we find almost before I have given an order. By now we have worked our way deep into the rotting land, and outposts and strongholds and small fortresses keep appearing, and they are basically all elite grade. Elite ant people are far more durable than the ordinary kind, agile and viciously cruel, and they carry level 1 weapons like firelocks and repeating crossbows, and some of their strongholds mount cannons. Contribution points start climbing significantly, and the danger climbs right along with them. By the time evening comes down, I look at what I have accumulated and find another 2,800 points on top of the rest. I think about it and order tomorrow back to Spore Town. And the distance being what it is, we do not arrive until deep in the night. The whole town is wrapped in a pale blue glow by then, and it is extremely tranquil and genuinely beautiful. None of us has any intention of enjoying the scenery, and we go straight for the center of it. The exchange list has barely moved, which tells me the two unfamiliar mobile cities are very clearly saving toward the 8,000 points for that level 2 item. Everybody has also arrived at a tacit understanding out in the wild, which is that ant people and resource strongholds are first come, first served. I calmly exchange for the spore armor and the sun apple tree seeds and put every remaining point into Frost Store. There is 1 day left, and with a little more effort I can take the whole stock of it. Having shot a large number of ant people over 2 days, I have also accumulated several thousand crystal coins without meaning to, because their corpses drop iron ore and coal in ordinary items and occasionally design blueprints. The most surprising thing to come off one of them is a cola blueprint. The panel gives it as cola at item level common. Effect none, crafting at 1 unit of fresh water. It is actually cola, and my eyes light up. I feed it into the workshop immediately, produce a batch and hand everybody a bottle. Opening one and taking a long pull off it, I have to nod, because a carbonated drink out in the wasteland feels genuinely good. It would feel better chilled. A drink like this should be very popular out here, I think, and I might even be able to make money from it. By the end of the 3rd day, I have accumulated enough points in exchange for the last of the frost ore in one go. Then I use the workshop to craft the frost cannon and its ammunition. The finished gun is crystal clear and puts out a faint chill just standing there. Young Moon is even fonder of it than I am, and keeps stroking the barrel. I let out a breath. After all of that effort, I finally have a level 1 cannon, and tomorrow's safety out in the wild has gone up a long way with it. Old Jew puts a hand on it and says with obvious satisfaction that we finally have a level 1 cannon, and then asks whether it is not about time we left. I nod. Tomorrow's resources are very nearly depleted and the crew is worn through by days of high-intensity fighting. I order us to roll in Fortress for repairs and maintenance and to restock supplies and people. As we pull away from Spore Town, the corner of my mouth goes up slightly. I do not care which of those level 1 cities ends up with the level 2 mechanical arm. Tomorrow has securely taken everything it came for. I glance at the panel while we go. There are better than 2 days until the next refresh, which is unexpectedly long, with a full 7 entries in it. So there is certainly epic intelligence in there, and possibly even legendary. By the time we are resting at Roland Fortress, it should have landed, and then I can plan the next move around what it says. In the evening we arrive, and the moment we are through the gate I let out a soft breath. Substantial as the gains were, our ordinary bullets and shells and iron ore and fuel are very nearly gone, and the crew's energy is gone with them. 3 days of fighting hurt a great many people, and left tomorrow damaged in several places. I plan on a few days here to let everyone recover while I prepare supplies for the next trip and try to recruit more hands. It is genuinely a good thing that we have Roland Fortress as a harbor, because recuperating out in the wild is an extremely dangerous way to spend a week. To my surprise, the Conqueror and Azure have only just come back as well, so the 3 of us meet and trade accounts of the last few days. It turns out none of us went home empty-handed. After several days of attacking, the Conqueror successfully captured a monster town and came away with a great many resources and a city component blueprint. Azure's luck also ran well, since while attacking a mine, an elite monster corpse dropped a level 1 heavy machine gun blueprint. A monster town, I say, and my heart skips, and I ask whether it was a wild boarmen town. Rojiam nods, surprised that I know, and I sigh internally. I had planned to hit that place after tomorrow had rested and the Conqueror got there first, which is normal enough, since not every good thing in the world is going to fall to me. More surprising than that is Azure's luck, because I did not expect them to land a level 1 heavy machine gun blueprint. That is the strongest killing tool short of a level 1 cannon, and is actually better than a cannon in front of a corpse tide. Then they hear my account and both of them stop where they stand. Rojiam gasps and asks whether I genuinely have a level 1 cannon now. Li Jin mutters that he did not expect the Rotting Land to hold a neutral monster town, that it not only has frost ore and frost crystals but a level 2 item in it, and asks why he never has luck like that. Both of them look at me with something envious and complicated behind their eyes. Tomorrow now holds city camouflage and a frost cannon, has picked up rare level 1 crops, and has 2 excellent blueprints on top. The development speed of this level 1 city is simply too fast, both of them say, like a rocket going up. I wave a hand and smile at it. After saying goodbye to them, I go back aboard ready to start my own work, and then a commotion erupts outside. What now, I wonder, and ask myself whether it could be an attack, which is absurd since this is a fortress. Then I walk out of the room full of suspicion and see it clearly and stop dead. There is a colossal shape in the distant sky, a steampunk mobile city shaped very much like a giant hot air balloon. It floats above thick cloud with its chimneys putting out grayish-white smoke, and the roar of its propellers rolling out across the cloud sea for a long time after. I am simply dumbfounded. That mobile city can fly. I get to the observation tower fast and put the telescope up. Its outer surface is made of thick, enormous city canvas, colorful and fairy tale-like, gathered into a hot air balloon shape, and through the gaps in the canvas I can see its internal structure plainly. The main body is layers of metal platforms and riveted armor plate, with steam pipes large and small winding through it carrying high-pressure steam. Dozens of giant airbags hang under the city, enormous propellers are mounted at the tail, and there are eye-catching mechanical fins on the side wings that let it hold balance in storms and moving air. Its vehicles are hot air balloons of various sizes, plus some small airships. I narrow my eyes and push the telescope for everything it can give me, because what I am most curious about is how the residents actually live. As the lens moves, I get exactly what I was imagining. This city is divided into better than a dozen layers bottom to top, far more than an ordinary level 1 city carries, because floating in the air removes the height constraint entirely. Its layer distribution is also completely reversed from a ground city. The upper layers are boiler and power, the middle layers are living, and the noble areas at the bottom. Up top I can see giant steam reactors running with mechanics and apprentices moving among them. The streets in the middle are woven iron mesh and riveted steel plate, with roads large and small crossing each other, and every roadside carries gear-driven elevators and conveyor belts. Residents move along those roads about their own business, and some of them lean on railings and wave down at the people on the ground. The noble area at the bottom is very small, about half the size of a football field, and what is arranged there is nothing I expected. One old, simply decorated small house, a patch of grass beside it, and a wooden fence around the edge. That city floats there at its leisure, with every person in the fortress gazing up at it. Watching it, the corners of my mouth keep going up. It is truly wonderful, I say out loud, and I mean it. The sky is always the thing people most want to touch. The old story about the woman who flew to the moon, the Greek gods living up on Olympus, Van Gogh burning a night sky with those swirling brushstrokes, then hot air balloons and airplanes and rockets. Humanity has always gone at the sky clumsily and stubbornly and by every method available. I put the telescope away and close my eyes and think about what living up there is like. You wake in the morning and open a window onto a moving sea of cloud. A morning wind wrapped in thin mist comes in, and the rising sun throws the silhouette of a giant propeller against the cloud wall in a long, clean reflection. And under your feet the land runs past, mountains and lakes and wilderness and towns all in view. Down in the boiler area, workers shovel coal and talk while they do it, waving black ash off themselves now and then. Residents open windows onto air that is part soot and part morning dew, and they put on goggles and hoods before they go out. And on the woven suspended walkways, children run past holding the railings, happy about it. Since I transmigrated, I have been on edge every day because of survival, and standing there my mood quietly loosens a great deal. In a wasteland where order collapsed and staying alive is the highest demand there is, living on a flying city would feel fantastic. It even occurs to me that if tomorrow could become an airborne city, that would not be bad at all. And all I can do about it is sigh. Converting a mobile city to airborne flight is extremely difficult, since it not only requires collecting a whole series of airborne flight accessories, but demands that the entire city be rebuilt from the frame out. Resources and manpower and material all have to go in by the mountain. You find one airborne city in 100, and that is exactly how scarce they are, and exactly why the sight of one puts a whole fortress into a fairy tale. Every person in the place has stopped what they were doing to look up at it. The airborne city slows, starts dropping altitude, and sounds, 2 long blasts and 1 short, which means it wants to talk, which means it wants to rest and resupply here, and realizing that, I go straight to excited. Immu, who is inspecting tomorrow, evidently reads it off me and cannot help saying something. He asks whether that airborne city is not extremely desirable, and whether I want to go up and visit it. Yes, I tell him, with something in my eyes I do not bother hiding, and say that even a few minutes of watching the ground go by from up there would be great. He says that really is wonderful just to think about, and asks whether he can come with me. No, I tell him, because he needs to keep working for me. He adjusts his glasses, visibly disappointed, and I rub my hands together and take the lift platform down. By then, the airborne city is over Roland Fortress and starting its descent. Its helmsman has carefully picked a landing spot and is calling out the landing operation on a megaphone. The city gradually stops heating its burners, opens roughly 50 to 70% of its exhaust valves, and holds that opening as it comes slowly down toward the fortress. At about 140 feet from the ground, it fires briefly to kill the impact and settles into a level basket posture above us. People come down in hot air balloons. Looking closely, I find every one of them blonde and blue-eyed with Western features. Leading them is the butler of the city's lord, a man in his 50s with a rational, restrained face, a spine straight as a ruler, a permanently furrowed brow, rather like a stern homeroom teacher watching students through a window. He opens a notebook and addresses the crowd, saying that as planned earlier they will purchase 2,000 units of iron ore, 1,000 of coal, and 500 of fuel at this fortress. Then he comes back to himself and finds that very nearly every person in the entire fortress has gathered around him. He introduces himself. The airborne city is named Adventure, and it is a level 1 city, and his name is Gray, and he is butler to its lord. It has come from the distant basin area. By his account, Adventure stands about 1,000 feet tall, runs about 2,300 feet across, and its main structure is about 400 feet thick. Its dozen-odd layers come to a total area of about 4.5 square miles, and can accommodate better than 500 people. It normally flies between 1,000 and 5,000 feet, and can climb higher in an emergency. Its speed generally runs 12 to 31 miles an hour. It can stay aloft continuously for 1 to 2 weeks. Nobody standing there is remotely interested in the numbers. A child puts a hand up and asks whether they may go up and visit. The Lord is naturally very happy to invite everyone, Gray replies, expression unmoved, especially children. And then he adds that he personally dislikes children, because when they are noisy, they are like wind-up toys with the governor removed and frequently produce terrible sounds above 140 decibels. A little girl says timidly that he was a child once too. He shakes his head slowly and firmly and says no, that he has been calm and self-possessed since childhood, and was almost never noisy, that people often told him he was like a boring little adult because of it. He has not finished the sentence before a line has formed in front of him that runs the length of the square. He sighs helplessly at the sight of it, and then adds that mobile city lords have priority. I have my lord's wristband up instantly, and then I find to my surprise that there are 2 other wristbands in the air, and they belong to Li Jin and Ro Guillaume. I ask them whether they are all this old and still this childish. Both of them look up at Adventure and say with considerable feeling that this is nonsense, and that no man alive is too old to be moved by that. Under Gray's arrangement, the 3 of us go up in a hot air balloon. We come out at Adventure's middle section, stepping first into the central area they call Riveting Plaza, which is both a market and the social heart of the place. Repairmen hammer parts at their stalls, and the sparks land on the iron plate floor, with tiny hissing sounds. The little pharmacy's windows are full of small glass bottles labeled as relief for high-altitude sickness and tonic for dizziness. Street vendors are hawking gear skewers, meat run onto small propeller shafts, and turning and roasting on residual heat. Residents at their windowsills tend cold hardy steam greenhouse plants with roots threaded through metal grids. Several street performers work steam organs whose notes rise and fall with the shifting low-altitude air. The bakery's steam oven puts out its first breath of scorch, and in low pressure the crust of that bread comes out exceptionally crisp, with the inside light as thistledown. It is truly wonderful, Ro Guillaume says, looking around with real feeling, and says how wonderful it would be to live here every day. Li Jin nods along and then asks, worried, what happens if they hit strong wind or a thunderstorm? Saying that now is a bit of a mood killer, Ro Guillaume tells him, and asks him not to ruin the atmosphere. While the 2 of them chat, I walk off down a corridor towards somewhere specific, because what interests me most is the lower level with the old house and the lawn and the railing. I reach it soon enough and look at the house. However I look at it, it is an ordinary wooden cabin with a peaked roof and a chimney and cream exterior walls, like a gingerbread house with rainbow candy stuck all over it. The door stands open, and I can see a little of what is inside. In the photo frame over the living room fireplace, a young couple stand embracing in front of a small repair shop, the wooden frame worn shiny with handling. The faded floral sofa carries 2 dents where people sat, and the left armrest has fine scratches from somebody's crochet hook. On the old refrigerator, there are yellowed recipe cards with a series of stern notes about healthy eating. 2 pairs of slippers sit in front of the door with the fuzz worn flat. 1 pair is scattered carelessly, and the other is placed neatly to the side, as though still waiting for somebody to come back. I stand there and let it be quiet for a moment, and feel how much time has gone through that house. Just as I am hesitating over whether to knock and announce myself, a sound comes from somewhere inside it. I look toward it, surprised, and find an old man frozen in place, secretly stuffing cake into his mouth. He is about 80, silver hair going in every direction like a dandelion, and his eyes are bright as a child who has just gotten to the candy. He lets out a breath of relief and says he thought I was Gray, then welcomes me as a young stranger and says that if I have time I should come in and sit down. Actually, Gray says, he is right here. He has appeared behind me without a sound, and very nearly puts the old man on the floor. His figure moves like lightning and he takes the cake back and returns it to the plate, and it is genuinely difficult to imagine a butler in his 50s moving that fast. He asks the old man to please give up eating sweets because his physical condition can barely handle them anymore. The old man clasps his hands and goes sulky like a child caught out. This is Claude, Gray tells me, Lord of the Adventure, while I sit on the sofa. Then he covers his forehead, very obviously with a headache behind it, and says the man is 87 and still an overgrown child causing trouble daily. Claude grumbles at him not to always use that exasperated adult tone, since Gray is 20 years younger than he is. Then, while Gray is talking, The old lord tries to sneak a finger through the cake cream, and Gray slaps his hand with the notebook without breaking sentence. Claude cries out and tells him to be gentle. Gray says he cannot touch sweets anymore, and that if the madam were still here, she would be angry and would hit him. Ellie would not, the old lord says, withdrawing his hand reluctantly, because she was a very gentle person, and he says he wishes he could see her every day now, even if it meant getting hit. Gray pauses at that, and something gentle comes into eyes that are usually nothing of the kind. I sit off to the side and smile and say nothing. Then Claude notices the Lord's bracelet on my wrist and says so, rubs his hands together and leans in and says he wonders how my mobile city is doing and whether I have experienced anything memorable.